Um, all right, I think we may be live now. Sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. Through OBS, it said everything was going live and we were good to go, but it obviously wasn't. So that's never good. But we should be good now. So let us know if you can hear us. Let us know if the audio is looking good. As we're streaming, you might want to hit the refresh for us.
I just did. It's still saying notify me, man. It ain't showing live. Double check. Let me click in. There we go. All right. We live now. We live.
Says it's
mic check.
Try to let them know.
Mic check. We got to start doing the cog mic check, by the way.
Doing the cog mic check?
Yeah, 15 minutes beforehand.
I mean, but this is what this is.
I know, kind of it is.
We weren't here 15. We weren't ready 15 minutes beforehand.
We were just bullshitting.
We were. I could have automatically hit the. I didn't know if you were ready for that. There could have been some smoke in the background.
There's always going to be some smoke. I didn't even get to the real smoke, but we got to talk about that later.
Oh, no, we're definitely going to do that. But just to dive right back into it, before I start recording things for the audio listeners, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the backstage of Living Splitscreen. Hey, we're here finally. Sorry that you guys missed that other back end of conversation we had before we actually went live. But I was just touching on some of the things that are currently happening this week. I started with Thymisa came out this week. It's the Souls-like game where it's like you're playing as a medicine doctor, and there's a lot of abilities that kind of based off of that. It looks really dope. I haven't had a chance to jump into it, but
disease and poison and sicknesses are your weapons.
Exactly. And so I hadn't had a chance to jump into that yet, but I did buy it day one, like I said I would. So we're clutch on that. And then there was something else that I jumped into right after that.
Lies of P, brother. Lies of P.
That's what it was. Yes. It was so natural. I wanted to make sure it was double natural, but no. Lies of P. Also, there's some smoke going on about that. That it could possibly be coming to Game Pass, which is going to be super dope. We got the frames jumping all over the place. So I'm adjusting that as we go, but we should be fine. But Lies of P could be possibly coming to Game Pass. There was some Morse code that was thrown out there by the Snitch himself, and Idle Sloth also out here slothing these guys. I also dropped some information too, kind of following up saying, hey, he kind of confirmed it too. It's another known entity throughout Twitter and throughout the community for having some of that information or some insider knowledge about things. And then Pong brought up the question, was like, hey man, is this Xbox's chance to get their Souls-like game? And my answer to that question was going to be, yeah, because the thing about this Lies of P game is if the rumors are true, what they're saying is true, that this Lies of P is supposed to be technically a spiritual successor to Bloodborne, that would fit all those right notches. And from what I've seen from the gameplay, it definitely has that Bloodborne aesthetic, right? Where it's kind of separating itself from like other Souls games, or when other Souls like a Neo or Sekiro, how those games they're Souls-likes or whatever the case, but they're in different spaces. They have different aesthetics. They have a different look to them. They feel different. The combats can be different. It's not traditional to that genre, quote unquote. But so it looks really interesting. I am excited for it. If it comes into Game Pass, again, it's going to give people like Pong a chance to jump in there who aren't traditionally those types of players and to give it a run. Who knows? It may be his next favorite game. I don't know if Pong still feels as strongly about Elden Ring as he did previously, but
yeah, it's a great game. I just haven't jumped back into it again, but it's a great game. But no, yeah, I mean, that's why I said it was so interesting that last week, if you guys were listening here, you know, that's why I talked about Lies of P stood out when Xbox announced their list of games that were going to be on stage at Gamescom for the Xbox portion of that presentation. Because Lies of P up to this point, I mean, it's a third party. And we hadn't heard any marketing rights. Nobody was really pushing it. But now we're getting closer to launch. All of a sudden it's showing up on the Xbox stage. And here we are now. The Snitch is claiming it's going to be day one Game Pass. Like I said, could this be one of those rare occasions where Xbox has gone out and funded a third party out of the blue and paid them to get that Bloodborne S-type game for their ecosystem exclusively. It'll be interesting to see, man. It'll be interesting to see.
I mean, again, and I don't see why not. It's that's the other thing too about this entire situation is if they are, again, that's playing those power moves, right? I keep mentioning it's not about first parties. It's about what you could do for your audience. It's what you could do with the third party, what you could do for second party, because those always drive that ecosystem. And if you can get a game that seemingly and ride off the high of it because of Elden Ring, there could be other games like it that can draw a lot of interest and have a lot of people have engagement into your ecosystem. So, and that was good for the numbers. So it's all business, man. So definitely something to consider.
Even if it's not exclusive and it's just coming to Game Pass, it's still a big W. Obviously, again, I'm not the exclusive guy, so I don't care. It'd just be interesting to see if Xbox, after all the stuff that we heard come out of Brazil or the Activision Blizzard deal, maybe there's been some change of heart behind the scenes a little bit, and maybe they are willing to go out and get a few more games that fit that role of, a genre that they are not necessarily strong in, but Sony has, in spades over there, especially when they've been holding on to that Bloodborne exclusivity this entire time, right? So it would be interesting because Lies of P, aesthetically, like you said, each Souls series is kind of different. Even the Souls-like games that we've seen from other people outside of From, they each have their own aesthetic. But Lies of P, if you just look at the video side by side with a Bloodborne, bro, they obviously were influenced heavily. And it's an interesting story being that it is based upon a dark fantasy Pinocchio. Listen, it could have some appeal. I've seen a lot of people talking about it again. And how many people did we see? Countless people on Twitter go and try other Souls games because of Elden Ring, right? So that would be, like you said, riding the wave of interest in those types of games right now. So why not? Why not go do it? But either way, if it's just coming to Game Pass, it's going to be a big W for Xbox. So that's pretty damn cool as well. And hey, Jacob, we talked before we were actually live, but we were live, but we weren't live. Behind the scenes, we were talking about your post. That is completely 100% console war nonsense, Jacob Novik. There ain't nothing like the FTC is going to tweet out Philbox, okay? The FTC, an official government account, is not going to tweet that out in any way, shape, or form. I thought it was hilarious, though, brother, for sure. But that was some console war nonsense right there. Man, we got a lot of beautiful people already in here, Steel. Everybody getting used to this behind-the-scenes action and showing up to hear us talk some talk. I like it.
All right. I like it Hopefully my mic's coming through clean. For some reason,
I hear you fine.
For some reason, did I get disconnected or anything that you could tell?
No, I couldn't tell.
Interesting. I just wanted to make sure that everything was going good. Said I got disconnected for whatever reason, but if you guys are hearing me clean, then that's perfect. But yeah, man, let's shout out some of these beautiful people that are in here currently in the chat. We got Andrew Cullinane. What's going on, man? Talos Ray, Duna Reaper. What just happened? Who else we got in here? Dan the Man Cunningham. What's going on, brother? How you feeling? Ray Oid. Got Jonathan in here saying that Death Stranding on Game Pass PC is great for PC consumers.
I
did hear that conversation come up. I heard you and Matt talking about it, I believe, on PM in the PM, where you guys brought up the whole console and PC thing. Yeah, it's something that we've talked about here before, because there are certain reasons why those things tend to happen. But we should definitely start seeing less and less of it. So I definitely agree with that. Who else we got in here? Six Slayer. What's going on, man? How you feeling? Casino, how you feeling, my guy? Tim the Sorcerer. Tony Golasso. What's going on, man? OCD Gamer. Nix. Jacob Novik throwing the smoke out there. What's going on, man? Matt Barnes. It's always good to see you, man. Hey, I've seen you've been focusing on the health, man, getting things rocking and rolling. You've been looking beautiful, man. I mean, and shout out to you for just buckling down and making sure that you feel better on a day-to-day basis, man. That's an amazing thing to see. Some motivation to the people, to those around you. If you, even if you don't think it is, it truly is. It's Timmer. What's going on, man? How you feeling? Back from the dead. Like I haven't seen you in a sec, man. But I know you are here usually on a week-to-week basis right here, rocking with us with Living Splitscreen, where we go live. In case you guys don't know, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time. But you'll hear that again as I get ready to go live. HTK 360 UK Lad. What's going on? If I missed you, I will definitely try to shout you out when the show actually goes live. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. I'm going to start recording for our audio listeners. So give me a moment as I get that set up for us. So we've got to get into some things, and I think it's going to be a beautiful day. Hopefully you guys feel the same. Oh, is there any last things you want to say to the back end team before we get started?
Just appreciate everybody showing up on the Saturday morning. We've got a great regular crew. Look at even Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick himself dropping in here as he always likes to do, to say hi, even if he does listen to us on the back end while he's doing chores elsewhere. Boom, I hope everything's good with the fam. I just kind of caught up on what was happening in your world. I've been off Twitter a lot outside of just posting the DMs when I see some news, but hope mom is doing good and stuff, and nothing but prayers, blessings, energy towards you guys over there, the whole Boomstick family. So appreciate you dropping in here, brother, for sure, 100%. So love you, man. Otherwise, yeah, man, no, we got some great topics. Been a lot of things going this week, so we got a lot to get into, Steel. So let's do this, man.
All right. I will mention something else when we get into the show. We will have to go a little bit shorter today because I got to make an appointment. But I'll mention that here during the show. And I mean, again, it's still gonna be a 3-hour show. But let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. 3, 2, 1. Oh, snap. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to episode 69 of the Living Splitscreen program. At this point, I'm trying not to centralize us on one central, like, oh, it's morning, we're a podcast. No, man, we're Living Splitscreen. We're a brand. You guys got to come rock with this. Come roll with this. Come hang out. We give you that live, raw, authentic, uncut, passionate content, giving you the RTS view nobody else is giving you. And if you don't know what RTS is, real-time strategy, pulling yourself out of the world, looking to get the darker crevices of the map, putting those resources together, just having a genuine conversation. That's what it's about. I am one of your hosts, Steel Rain. Steel Rain, the T is a 7. Look it up, man. Type into Google. My wife didn't believe me. I had her look it up. She found me. I'm trying to tell you guys, if you have any questions, hit me up in the DMs, hit me up in a message, follow me, trying to get some gaming in, send me a message through. I'll let you know if I'm busy or not. Look, for our audio listeners, I gotta holler at y'all, man. Please, we greatly appreciate you guys, but if you ever tune in one day, tune to a certain section, because I do put the timestamps on that also. Shout out to Pong for being continuously doing that for us on the show. But it makes it easier for you guys just to find your place. We don't expect for you to tune in for the whole 3 to 4 hours. Me and Pong do. And at this point, we need a program. Somebody needs to sponsor us so we can just do this full time. Obviously, we can do this for almost 10 hours a day. So look, how many days in a week are there? How many days you want us to work? I'm telling you, we got the content for you. But today, coming off the heels of a beautiful release last week, I do have some Spider-Man remastered gameplay on PC. Look, this gameplay is 1080p. Max settings on everything, including ray tracing. I did end up turning ray tracing off because, again, I personally feel it's overrated, unnecessary, and takes up unneeded resources when there's other things that you could turn up. Like more, get better anti-aliasing, better shadows, better depth quality. Those things really matter and can add on to the experience. But that's what you're getting today in the background. Other thing that I did to switch it up a little bit, because I know it's a little awkward when you go to a show and, you know, you get those quiet moments. I do have the video in the background playing some audio for you guys. So we're going to test that out to see how it feels. Maybe it's too much, maybe it's not enough, but you get to hear Spider-Man whoop a little bit of tail while we're speaking or in between our quiet.
We have no silence here, Steel.
We don't. But again, I wanted to give the people some more depth. Again, Living Splitscreen. You also get a little bit of the audio from it. Let me know if it's too much. I can definitely go ahead and turn it off. We've had it off this entire time. But with that being said,
and Steel, real quick, Andrew called in, I think earlier, to ask and wanted to confirm you can play with the Xbox controller on PC for Spider-Man, right?
Yes. Can I play with the Xbox controller on Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Yes. The one of the major things that I've noticed, and they might have updated it since, but the first time I booted up Spider-Man, I used a mouse and keyboard, and I thought I was going to be able to change the settings while I was in game. And no, I wasn't able to. I had to like literally start the game up, mouse and keyboard, like start the initial program, and then swap the mouse and keyboard, or swap to the gamepad or the controller when I actually hit start on the game, so it would recognize I'm playing with it. But yeah, it works flawlessly. I turned off all vibrations. That's typically what I do when I play games anyway. I don't like vibrations in a lot of my games, especially like Spider-Man and things like that. I don't need it. I actually think it's too much. You can call me old. I don't know what it is, but my brother loves that shit, and he's fucking 5 years younger than me. He loves vibration. He needs vibration for everything. No, I need it off. Only time I like it is like in racing games, or sometimes in action games, like a Ghost Recon or something like that, if I really want to immerse myself. But 95% of the time, I'm turning the vibration off because I don't need it. It also kills. It's funny for me. I think why I traditionally turn vibration off is because it drained the battery. I was like, nah, I need max, especially when you're popping in double A's. It's like, nah, I need max battery life on this controller. But then I also just liked, when it came to like Call of Duty and stuff, it makes a difference, at least for me. Yeah, all the extra vibrations throwing you off or whatever. But neither here or there. And see, Nick says he only likes the vibration when playing COD, and it's like, I can't do that during shooters, bro. It's distracting. But with that being said, look, it wouldn't be right if, one, I got to shout out to the Midweek Mix-Up Collective for just continuously sponsoring Living Splitscreen and all the craziness that goes on here. We're not that crazy. I think we're pretty sane. But
yeah, we are.
I got to pass it off to one of the most uncanny gentlemen in these Twitter streets, but also just in real life, man. He is the X-Men that is not Cyclops. My brother from another, the one, the only Mike Man. No, I'm just playing. Mike guy, Man. Pong Steel. What's going on, brother?
That is something that the new writers of X-Men would probably use as a name. It's Mike Man with a superpower of talking. That's basically where the new X-Men is at right now. So no, let's not do that. Listen, it has been a great week, Steel. Again, as always, busy in real life, but man, we got a lot of awesome news this week. It's starting to heat up again as we get to the end of summer and start approaching that all important holiday season. Delay season still in full effect, but you know what? There's still so much damn goodness to play, Steel, that I've been having a great time with the little bit of time that I have had. So I was playing Cult of the Lamb last week. For anybody who didn't know, I won Cult of the Lamb after we got off our show from Windows Central Gaming. Shout out to the boys over there and the girls over there. I didn't think I was going to be able to play Cult of the Lamb. I was going to have to wait on it, but I won. I started.
That was crazy. That was
crazy because I sent you the DM right after we got off the show. It was like a half hour later. I was like, what? Because we had just talked about it. So I started Cult of the Lamb. Fantastic game. However, as you probably seen if you've been watching Twitter at all, a lot of us are frustrated with the problems that Cult of the Lamb does have. It starts out and it feels like it's extremely polished, as most Devolver published games are.
Right.
But the longer I played, and I cleared out 2 of the dungeons, I think I'm on like day 30 something with my cult. I have like 13, 14 members. So I've done a considerable amount. I've beat 2 of the dungeons completely. More and more problems started popping up, whether it was level locking, whether it was complete crashes, or whether it was freezing. And I finally accumulated over an hour of lost time. And if you guys know me, I will put up with bugs all day long.
Right.
But Bethesda to me is one of the best studios out there because I'll play all their games. I don't care. I like some of the bugs. Some of the bugs are entertaining. They don't bother me like they bother some people. It adds
value.
It adds flavor. It adds flavor. But not all bugs are created equal. And for me, the line is crossed when you don't respect my time. So when I start losing saves, or game breaking bugs, that's when I put a game down. So I finally had to put Cult of the Lamb down, but I understand why the people who pushed through and had a great time, there's plenty of people who have done that. Some people even call it game of the year quality stuff. I can see why. It is an addictive game through and through. They did a great job with it, but I finally put that down. I said enough's enough. I'm going to wait for a couple patches and then I'll come back to it again. Okay. So then, Steel, I hit you up in the DMs and let you know that I'd re-downloaded Battlefield.
Yeah, you said that, and I feel you, and I'm still not ready yet. I'm not ready.
I understand why you're not ready, of course, Steel. I get it, but I will say this because the first season ends at the end of this month. They've got double XP going through the end of the month right now. Nice. So, and of course, I bought the 120 package deal, so I got the full season pass. Right. And they dropped that new map, and they've got the breakthrough mode now, 64 player breakthrough mode. Okay,
that's pretty dope.
Look, it's running fantastic, man. It was before. And it was before, but even more so now. You can tell the work they've been doing on the back end. And I've jumped in, and again, I haven't had the time, so it's not like I've been sitting down for like 3-4 hours playing Battlefield. I've jumped in for a round or 2 each night. This week, I'm like level 20 or something on my season pass. Okay. With the double XP. And they're still giving you the daily bonus of 20,000 XP for your first match, too. So, I mean, it's huge. It's a lot. Okay. But I got to say, it's playing extremely, extremely well, Steel. The new map is fantastic. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I've only been able to play it a couple times because it's a rotation thing with breakthrough. Right. But jumping in, getting a match within a minute, getting a match, getting in.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Everything's running smooth. Gameplay is on point. Had a moment, Steel. Again, you know what it is, and anybody who's played Battlefield a lot knows what it is when you have one of those Battlefield moments. And I'm not just talking about the only in Battlefield moments that they're famous for. I'm just talking about what it feels like to actually know that you're impacting a moment in the game. By yourself or with your squad. It's still Battlefield, so if you get in with a bad squad or if you get in a bad, side of things, it's going to be a slaughter at the end of the day. But I had this moment, Steel, when I hopped in with the medic, and it was on the new map, and my team was getting pushed back from the capture point, and we were defending, and the team was getting pushed back, and I had one of those moments. I respawned, and we were in one of the choke points. It's a tunnel in the new map kind of area where everybody kind of pushes through. Right. And the other team had captured the point, and our team was trying to come back. Well, we kept getting pushed further back through this tunnel. I came in as a medic and rolled in at the right time, did 5 heals. I got 5 people revived out of this tunnel, and all of a sudden, you saw the tide turn, man. All of a sudden, we got that push. We got that push, and we kept pushing. I kept throwing out med packs to heal ahead. You know what I'm saying? And everywhere we kept pushing ahead, retook that point, and I just was gritting from ear to ear, man, because there's just it's all Battlefield, man. There's just no feeling like that in the world when it comes to first-person shooters. So, again, if you're interested, if you've already bought it, why they haven't put an EA Play? Listen, they're just being stubborn about it. They're trying to get back some of that money. They're going to make people still buy this thing. They shouldn't be. This should be on EA Play so more people have a chance to jump in. But if you bought it, you deleted it like I have multiple times. If you want to jump back in right now is a really great time to jump back into Battlefield. It's running great, and I'm having a great time with it. And then good. Also, I had pre-ordered Tribes of Midgard, which was a big PC darling for a few months, and then it was on PlayStation. It finally came to Xbox and launched this week, and it was $20 for the game. Okay, I had it pre-ordered before my budget got blown up, so I was like, whatever, I'm going to keep it. $20 is $20. So Mav and I jumped into Tribes of Midgard because he had bought it on PlayStation, but couldn't find anybody to play with. And you really need people in that game. Like you could play it by yourself, but it's going to be very, very difficult because it's a roguelite survival-esque game, right?
Right.
But they've added a ton over the past year since it launched on PlayStation, year and a half. So even Mav, who hadn't touched it in a long time, he jumped in. He's like, boy, this is totally different. They've added so much to this. So him and I jumped in and went through the first prologue together. That's a fun game, man. I could see why it was a PC darling for a while, streamers darling. And for $20, you could do a lot worse than Tribes of Midgard, especially if you got some people that you can play with.
Right.
I can definitely see how that game gets deeper and deeper the more you play it. So I had a good time with Tribes of Midgard.
Because it has those roguelite, it's supposed to have those like some of those roguelite elements too, where you carry over progress and you just you keep rolling until you guys, really break through or you finally beat that beast at the end or the god or whatever that comes through. Or
it's the giants, Junthers or whatever they call them, because they use all appropriate terms. Yeah, because so Mav and I jumped into prologue, which is the first part of it. I had played through the tutorial. The tutorial
co-op from the start?
Yeah, co-op from the start. But I had done the tutorial while he was messing around. He was streaming. He was doing something else, and then I did the tutorial. Well, the tutorial gives you like 5 basics. Okay, there's no hand. Yeah, there's no hand holding in this game whatsoever. Because when I jumped into prologue with Mav, I was like, wait, how do we do this? The tutorial did not show me how to do this. You kind of figure it out on your own. You got to go collect resources and then build your armor, build your weapons. But to your point, Steel, why I was saying that, to your point, is that the first time we played through the prologue, the giant came and you got to defend your town and defend the tree in the middle. It's like an energy tree.
Right.
You got to defend that. Once it gets destroyed, it's game over.
Okay.
So it's kind of tower defense in a way too, like action, So we got to the giant. Well, we wound up not killing the giant. Giant took down our tree, but so our game ended. But then we restarted. Well, what happened is because of the experience, I had earned the beginning gear pack. So we got to start with your basic armor, weapons, etc. So you didn't have to go out and collect resources and build all that stuff from scratch. So then you were starting ahead of the curve, right? So then we played through, but we had already started way ahead. So we got to roam out a little bit further, beat some bigger enemies, get some more rare resources. We got to upgrade our shops. And we wound up beating the giant the second time through when him and I got to that point. So it is a roguelike through and through as well. So it's cool. Yeah. So very cool aesthetic, very cool art look. But yeah, that's pretty much been my week. I'm trying to think if I jumped back into anything else. I'm sure there's a couple games I jumped into just to jump into. Oh, I jumped into Wolfenstein New Order. Wolfenstein New Order. I haven't played that since the PS4, and I actually just saw it in my list, and I was like, shit, let's jump back into this again. Great game still to this day. Wolfenstein is really good. I can't wait till the new one comes out. But still, you've been playing PC Spider-Man. Did you get anything else in or no?
Other than playing, and this is from like last week. So, yes, I do still have Warframe. Actually, I've spent some ducats in there, so I've definitely got some time invested. More time than I'm gonna have to invest in there because again, I got a buddy who plays nothing but Warframe, so it's like when you have someone like that, you want to be at a certain level too. But so I've been working on that in the background. I also jumped into Tower Fantasy. I jumped into that last night to check it out. It's supposed to be a mobile game, but it's also on PC. It's another gacha game. It's supposed to be kind of like Genshin Impact, but not. You have a custom created character you can make. They have a lot of options from jump for your custom created character. So there's one difference. But I'm not too long in the game. I only played it for about an hour. I was just trying to check it out. I saw some stuff about it, saw some of the combat. That's what really got me. I was like, oh, this combat looks kind of cool. And then I get into it, and it does have a nice mix-up, man. Like, it has some of the things that we would like from Genshin Impact, like the cute stuff. You got the different chicks, you got the different weapons, the over-the-topness. That's a lot of similarities that it shares in that fact, where the gacha side, you're going to be rolling for different types of characters, but how this kind of separates itself is that you don't have to use those characters you roll for. You can just use your custom character, but there are benefits to you using those characters though. So for an example, your custom character is not going to have the abilities or like certain weapons will give you certain animations based off of whatever character you end up rolling for, or whatever character you get. Your custom character is not going to have those animations if you don't use those characters. And those animations come with additional effects and things like that. So it just gives you some more options from what I've noticed. And it just looks really cool, man. It's quick. With the combat, while I was saying it's kind of like Genshin, but not. In here, it seems like, and this is something that I always care about, they make it a little more extensive. It's not so basic. So basically, in the other thing too, because when I play games on PC, I only play with controller. So the controller settings aren't the greatest right now. You have to have both to use the interface. And then even sometimes, like, it just doesn't, controller's just really weird right now. But you can still, it's still doable. With that being said, coming back to the combat, the way that it is like there's like 3 different weapons that you can end up having. So let's say you have a bow, you have like this other gun, or you can have a bow and 2 other weapons. Basically, as you do damage with one weapon, it charges up your other weapons in your inventory, or one of your other weapons in your inventory, depending on what kind of damage you're doing. And what that does is once you fill that bar, you can do a special attack and swap to that weapon. So it gives you that feeling of fluidity as you're going through combat moves, because you're mentally kind of like challenging yourself a little bit. All right, well, I need to build up momentum essentially with this one weapon, swap to this other weapon. I do a special combo. Now I'm into a whole different combo set. And then now I'm building it up again. So I just unlocked a bow on this other character. So now I love, and so now I'm charging that up. And then when I do that special move, now I can back up, shoot a few bows off or whatever the case. And then boom, kind of rinse and repeat, or choose to move through the cycle however I want, which I thought was really unique. So it's interesting. But again, this is definitely one of those games where it's playing off of the waifu fantasy, right? It's definitely going to be one of those.
I was checking out the aesthetic here, and it's definitely the waifu action, man, for sure. It's got some great animation though.
No, the animation is top notch, but it's definitely going to be playing to the waifu fantasy. I mean, of course, that's what gets people to spend money on these types of games. But it does, from the little bit of research that I did, it does seem to be a little bit more free to play friendly. So they have a lot of things in there that are pretty dope. And I would love just to see these games come more so to all platforms. That was going to be the main reason of me bringing that up and why I wanted to try it, because I like those. And the difference between this game and like Genshin, this game is supposedly priding itself in being an MMO also. It's not just a gacha game, it's an MMO also. So those are other elements that you're trying to play off of, and MMOs can be very difficult to sustain if you do not do the right things. And one of those points was, I heard one of the guys that I was watching, sorry, I can't remember his name right now, but he was bringing up because they have a lot of different servers. And that's good, but it can also create a huge divide when you're trying to build up a player base. It's one thing, I think personally, it's one thing that I've seen from like Phantasy Star. It's one thing to have different servers and everything, but I would rather you have those servers in the tuck in case you need them versus just you giving me those up front. You know, because you can kind of figure out your player base at that point. But either way, it's really incredible. Like, I was just looking at this game, right? And I was looking at who developed it. It's a company completely different. Perfect World. Of course, it's from China, right? But you wonder how these games come out with such quality. That studio, and again, this is old information because it's from China, so we don't. We're not going to get updated information. But they were over 4,500 employees back in 2013. So you wonder how they pump out these games and how they are such high quality games. And like you said, Steel, I'd love to see Xbox start getting some of these games and just throw them on the platform and just get people throw them in Game Pass or whatever. Just create a whole separate section, mobile gaming on Game Pass, whatever. Like I said, I eventually think that they're going to have a mobile Game Pass too. A mobile Game Pass, I should say. But it's just crazy, man, when you think about
China and how they just continuously pump out. And again, everybody knows my feelings on having, the Chinese government involved, but it's crazy. 4,500 employees back in 2013, man. Like, that's crazy. Like, it's just insane. It's all mobile games. That's what they do. It's like mobile games. Like, that's their forte. So it's crazy, man, how much money they've invested in this stuff. But that's why we get high quality stuff like this. Glad you tried it out, Steel. I like it.
Yeah, man, it's mad dope. Again, I was seeing some stuff about it, and again, this is something else where it's just like marketing works, people. Like, I'm an avid gamer. I would say I'm an enthusiast, and I saw so many ads for this game just all over the place. It constantly, because I saw the combat also, it was constantly putting something in my mind, somewhere in the depths back there, to, at this point, when I saw it again and the link took me to their site and I was on my PC, I was just like, let me download it. Let me see what's about. Let me see how I feel about it. And I think I might have to throw it in the rotation, man. So it just depends. But that's really dope. Other than that, I hadn't gotten to much other gaming this week. Those who don't know, a little bit behind the scenes, I did get into, unfortunately got into a wreck this week. So I've been trying to heal off of that. And that's been crazy. And then I was telling Pong, I was also doing something that, some of the other generations said these young kids just don't do anymore. I was outside getting some work in, man, cutting down some branches, moving around, just throwing them just barehanded. No gloves, no nothing, just out there getting gritty with the branches, man. And I got them out there by the street, man. We looking good, we feeling better, but is that welcome to the grown life, right? welcome to being an adult, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are curious.
Look at you. You turned 30 and there you are outside doing work. Look at you.
Yeah, exactly.
See, you're not young anymore, man. You're old now.
But I've always been that way. Ray Oy, glad you all right, Steel. Hey, man, I greatly appreciate that. It was crazy. Let's just say it's not my first, hopefully it'll be my last, but let's just say every time it makes me just a little bit more paranoid. I'm not gonna lie, man. It is what it is. You make those adjustments, but that's not what we're here for today. I'll definitely talk about that a little bit later if we'd like. But we got to get into these upcoming games. Pong, is there anything else that you kind of wanted to get into with the people before we proceed forward, my guy?
No, because we are on a time limit today, sir. So we got a lot to talk about. So we should probably get down to business.
For those who don't know, I do have an appointment right around 1 o'clock that I got to get to. So yeah, probably gonna cut a little bit short, but just keep that in mind.
Short for us is still a show and a half for most people.
Yeah, but it's actually a lot longer than what people would recommend. And who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? We do what we do here. All right,
exactly.
Let's see here. So we are coming up on the week of the 22nd, and we've got some games this week, Steel. That's for dang sure, man. So we're gonna start out with one that is coming to Game Pass day and date for all of our Xbox users, but it is coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, and that is one that I've been looking forward to. Midnight Fight Express is coming August the 23rd.
Really? Okay.
So, yeah, man, that is that indie title with the fighting hand-to-hand, a lot of John Wick. There's even some vehicle combat in this. This game is looking fantastic. We saw it at the showcase in June, caught my attention right away, and it is dropping this week. So get ready for that. I know there's a lot of people that are hyped for this game. So this is going to be a fun one, man. This is definitely going to be a fun one. And another game that we've talked about here, Steel, plenty, because I'm not digging it. It's a classic franchise. It's coming back, which I'm happy about. I hope a lot of people enjoy it. I hope it comes out good. But Saints Row, Steel, August 23rd, PlayStation 5. I got no faith, but doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me. Again, I'm not that dude who says, I hate it, so everybody else has to hate it. Not at all. I hope a lot of people have a lot of good times. Hey, look, Mav, everybody's jumping into it day one. So all of you, I hope you have a great time. But Saints Row, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on August 23rd this week. Enjoy it, everybody. Then we got F1 Manager 2022 coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. August the 25th for you F1 nuts who want to get down and dirty with the nuts and bolts. Get F1 Manager 2022. And then we got SD Gundam Battle Alliance Steel coming to PlayStation.
Sir.
Yeah, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC Steel. Little Gundam action for you this week, brother.
Yes, sir. I'm excited, man. This is another one I'm getting day one. I'm definitely gonna play through this. I'll put everything down just to jump in the air. So it is gonna be a good time. It's co-op experience. This is another one of those games to where I do wish it was coming to a service. That's another conversation that's gonna be coming up. I feel like this episode just because that topic has kind of come up again, man. Like people are like, shout out to the great David Jaffe, one of the creators for God of War. He was saying that there was a game that recently came out that he believed should have been in a service. Rollerdrome, I believe it was. He believed that should have been in a service, and people gave him a lot of flack for it. I believe a lot of people didn't actually listen to what he was saying. But again, there's certain type of games where you want that just for engagement to make sure that the devs know that the game is cared for, but it's coming out by Bandai Namco. So I think that's going to get enough attention as it is because Bandai has been just on a freaking roll, man. Like, so I think it's going to do all right. Hopefully, I got it day one. So I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, no, for sure. For the Gundam fans out there, if it wasn't a service, I'd definitely play it. There's no way I could justify it right now, but I would definitely be playing it with you because it would be so much fun. But it'll definitely go on down the road. Maybe I look at depending on how your experience is. That's a great part about having this community too. You get friends who you trust that jump into games like this and tell you what it's about. So I can't wait to see what happens with that one. Pac-Man World Repack. That's right. We're getting some new Pac-Man, folks. Classic character. I hope they just keep dropping Pac-Man. I don't care whether the games sell well. This is another Bandai Namco. Look, Bandai Namco is on a roll.
Bandai is fucking on fire, bro. There's nothing they can do wrong right now.
Nope. So Pac-Man World Repack coming to everything. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on August the 26th. Looking great. And then Steel, this is the one. I'm going to do everything possible to try to budget this in this week. We'll see what happens here.
Okay.
So obviously I've been waiting on it. Atlas is coming back, brother, to Xbox finally. Obviously we know Persona's going to be coming to Game Pass later this year, Persona 5, and then we get the 3 and the 3 portable, and we get Golden, which is going to be freaking amazing. I can't wait. Crazy. But right now, we are getting Soul Hackers 2. Go check out the reviews. The reviews are good, okay? They're not Persona great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's hovering around like a 78 right now to an 80 on Open Critic. There was one review that dropped it a little bit, and all you had to do was read about 2 paragraphs of that review, and you understood where it was going from the beginning. Ridiculous. Again, reviewers out there, you gotta, whatever. The guy should never have reviewed the game. Okay, never.
That's like me reviewing it and be like,
gave it a 30.
Maybe that's not fair because I probably would have gave it some justice.
Gave it a 30 Steel.
Yeah, I doubt that it's that bad.
It's got to be a broken game to be at a 30.
It's not that bad.
No,
it's not that bad, and I've seen a lot of it. So
but I'm saying at an 80, I think an 80 is a fair evaluation. I think that's probably where this is going to fall into. And hey, Soul Hackers 2 coming to PlayStation 5 Series, Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC. Listen, overall takeaway from the reviews, and again, I don't do reviews. They are what they are, except for like ACG and a few others that I trust. But with this type of game, I was expecting this was going to be another Atlas 100-hour time sink. It's not. So if you guys are thinking that this is like one of those games that's going to, cost you 100 hours and you just don't want to put that investment in, they're saying 30 to 40 hours to run through. And they've got a lot of accessibility features as well attached to this game. So if you're one of those people, it is turn-based battles, but they've made it very simple if you want it to be simple. So if you just want to experience it because the story, the characters, the art direction is phenomenal. It looks great. It looks classic Atlas here. Then they've got that built in as well into this game. So go check out Soul Hackers 2 if you're looking for that JRPG love. And obviously, the more support. If anybody out there is like me and the JRPGs are starting to come to Xbox, we got to support how we support. So, I bought Danganronpa when it came to Xbox, even though it was in Game Pass, to support the decision to finally bring it over. And that's why I really want to buy Soul Hackers 2 to support Atlas. It's not in Game Pass, but I want to support Atlas and their decision to finally bring it to Xbox because I've been waiting on this kind of stuff. So Soul Hackers 2 this week, August 26th. And I think that wraps up the week, but it is a solid list right there, Steel. Lots of things for everybody, right? So there's a little bit of everything for everybody in there. The only thing is probably not platformers, but you get a little bit of everything this week. So yeah, man, that's this week in gaming. I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's crazy. The Crazy Greek dude asks, have either of you played The Cycle Frontier? That sounds really familiar, and I don't think that I have played that. The Cycle Frontier. Hey, let's get that in there real quick. Hey, that's a good question, Greek dude, because I want to see, why does that sound familiar to me?
Cycle Frontier.
You know what's crazy about this game is that I did look into the Cycle Frontier. I saw it pop up on Steam, and it was actually a recommended game to me. And it's a PvE/VP game. Cycle Frontier is a 2022 first-person shooter. Developed and published by Jaeger Development. Jaeger describes this game as a competitive quest shooter and labels it with the cross-genre PvE/VP, a combination of player versus environment and player versus player. And I looked at some of the reviewing things. It didn't look good enough for me to bite the bullet on it and jump into it. So Crazy Greek, I mean, if you got an opinion on it, let me know how you feel. I might end up giving it a run because it was something that I was looking at, but it just didn't look like it was up my alley. And I looked at some of the gameplay, and I was just like, well, I don't know about that, man. It looks really iffy. And a lot of what I play, I will 100% will judge off of gameplay because I know what I stand for as a gamer, ladies and gentlemen. But
PC only, Crazy Greek dude, so you know I'm out. I don't do PC at all.
And it's PC only, yeah,
it's PC only right now. So nope, haven't touched it. It looks kind of cool though, but again, don't know until you jump in. Like Steele said, the reviews kind of didn't hit him right. So and what he saw. So good morning to you, Big Bad Mo. Thanks for dropping in here, brother. Appreciate you.
Shout out to Mo.
Bad Mo.
Another thing too, you were talking about the Saints Row release coming up, and I know a lot of people are excited for that. Again, I just don't know how I feel about Saints Row. I am gonna wait on it. I'm not pressured to play it. I'm like stretched between a few different games right now, along with also buckling down on school and things on my end. So it's like I'm really gonna have to have a choice on what I'm gonna do. Now I know my wife was saying that she was interested, so I might end up getting it for her. Because she likes those types of games. GTA, she likes just running around, doing the missions, having a good time. It's her created character. So that it might be something that's really appealing to her. And again, just like I saw her when she was playing Cyberpunk, she got a completely different experience. She had like a Pong type of experience versus what I had. She put about the same amount of hours as you did in everything, Pong. Basically did everything. And,
she did?
Yeah.
In Cyberpunk?
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't tell me that she had finished it, really?
Yeah, she bust that out and was debating on playing it again.
Yes.
And like every time that I bring it up, she's like, "Oh, expansion to DLC." And so that's the point that we're at with it. Again, good game. Nick says
the anime next month too.
Yeah,
Netflix.
I showed her that too, and she was hyped for that.
So good.
Look really good. Yeah. I'm a watch it day one. Nick says I could never get into Saints Row. Yeah, man. It's just again, it is what
I like the old Saint Rows.
I like the old ones. 1 and 2, especially 2. Even
3. 3, now that I played the remaster again and I'm playing through that, love it, man. I love it. But 2 was pinnacle for me. But 3 was still very, very, very good, and the remaster's done well. So yep, absolutely. 4 was fun, but again, it jumped the shark a little bit for me with the superhero powers and the over the top alien shit.
Right, yeah.
It still had its moments. It still was Saints Row. My fear is that this is not Saints Row anymore. So we're going to find out. Action-wise, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I'm sure the action is going to be really, really well done. Everything I've seen from the videos, it looks very well done in the open world. It's just the rest of it, the characters, the missions, just don't feel Saints Row-y to me. So, but we'll find out. Maybe I'll have a change of heart when I see people play it.
Yeah, there's no telling for sure.
Yep.
There was also some things because Osman Gold, for those who aren't familiar, he's a very popular streamer, has some hot takes, has some interesting opinions. I mean, I think he's a cool dude. I mean, he's interesting.
Asmund Gold, yeah, he's awesome. He even got into true crime, so my wife was watching him.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, do you know this guy? And I'm like, Asmund Gold, yeah, he's a big, gigantic streamer. I'm like, World of Warcraft and then Final Fantasy 14 when he moved over. I said, yeah, she's like, well, he's doing true crime now because he was doing the whole Johnny Depp case and stuff. So she was watching him. It's just hilarious, those crossovers.
It's also funny because you could tell that he actually has a little bit more reach. I know sometimes people say that, oh, streamers and you Twitter guys don't have reach like that, but apparently has enough reach for Blizzard to kind of double down on Diablo 4. We got some news about that this week. Them clarifying the whole loot system and how that's going to be, because people are especially coming off the heels of Diablo Immortal, people are super concerned about Diablo 4 having some of those same aspects, loot boxes, and the cosmetic issues. Sorry, my kids are going with their grandparents, grandpapa. But so a lot of people are concerned that there's going to be a lot of pay to win in Diablo 4. I know originally when I talked about Diablo Immortal, I mentioned here that I don't think that that's going to be there. I don't think they're going to villainize, quote unquote, or we're talking about Activision right now with nothing changed, or going through a change, I should say. I'm not going to say nothing's changed, but you're going to demonize the game. I don't think that's going to end up happening, but Pong, can you jump on that? How you feeling about that, man? Them clarifying things. Let me get the girls out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go get your kids off, man. Listen, when it comes to Diablo 4, I understand the hesitation 100%, because obviously the lack of trust has been earned by Blizzard. That's not something you want to earn, but obviously with Immortal and the decisions that they made with that game, even though it is mobile, and it's on PC, but even though it was based on a mobile and we knew we were going to get the monetization in Diablo Immortal is so extreme. I'm sure you guys have seen the streamer who spent $100,000 in that game, literally spent $100,000. And he got so powerful that when he tried to play PvP, he could not matchmake with anybody. So you spend $100,000 on a game, and now the game won't play for you because you can't find a match because you're so damn powerful. Listen, there's a lot that Blizzard chose wrong when it came to Immortal. There's reasons I get. Again, when something's free to play or games as a service, I'm cool. I've said that from the beginning. I'm cool because it lets me decide how much I want to invest. But when you make something so egregious like Immortal, what that's going to do, it is going to affect how people look at your upcoming games, whether it's fair or not. So with Diablo 4, there's a lot of people out here. I saw Jez make a post on Twitter too saying, I don't trust him. I don't trust him until, they talked about that with Immortal, that it wasn't going to be this big a deal, and it came out and was absolutely over the top egregious. So, I think they've earned that lack of trust. And they've got to make sure that with Diablo 4, because I personally, just me, I think Blizzard knows better, that they're not going to be able to pull that BS with a full price game. Okay.
We hope so. And that's what I'm
just saying, that's why I said personal opinion is I think that Blizzard knows that, but we hope so at the end of the day, of course, because we haven't seen it come out yet. So it could be absolutely awful. They could monetize the hell out of it. And everybody goes, what is this? This is a full price game. What are you doing, Blizzard? But at the same time, I think it is going to be purely cosmetic at the end of the day when it comes to the full price game. Even if they are charging $30 an outfit or whatever the hell they want to do.
I think what people are worrying about, because you can throw other things in there like pay to progress.
Yeah,
which could be pay to win also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people are worried about those types of things, especially in a game like Diablo, where it's based off of you running the same things over and over again. You getting better equipment the more times you run it. I hope this Diablo opens that up too, where it's really where every run literally feels different, kind of like taken from like Path of Exile or what's the other Korean game that ended up coming out here recently? That
Tim the Sorcerer. We can see your chats too, by the way, brother.
You are good with us.
We can see your chats. You are good here, so you are really good, man. All right.
Lost Ark. Lost Ark is going to be the other one. I think Diablo should start pulling some things from there. Where it just makes things, it gives you a different feel to the game every time you play. But I'm not super worried about it, but it is definitely a conversation to have. I mean, again, they're obviously wanting to make sure to clarify things, make sure that nobody is of the wrong assumption. So you know that at least I can agree with Pong, that at least understand they're not oblivious to it, right? So
you're right back, Seal.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I wanted to make sure to throw that in there. And the other thing too that I wanted to kind of give to the audio listeners, and Big Mad Mo real quick says, I'll be fine to do not PvP in Diablo, only PvE. So, and again, yeah, you'll have those options, but again, it can still make you feel some type of way in those types of games even if you're just doing PvE, if somebody next to you is like seemingly, or you see other people seemingly progressing 30 times faster than you are, that can be kind of frustrating. But a lot of times, I mean, if you don't care about that type of thing, then I wouldn't say necessarily worry about it then. Let me see. See if I can just mute that. I'm just gonna go ahead and mute the background audio for the video because it looks making Pong's bars just do their thing. But the next thing that I wanted to jump into, and I talked a little bit about this in the behind the scenes. And look, if you're not here with us live, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time on a Saturday, so you can get those behind the scenes conversations before we go live, especially for our audio listeners. You're missing out, man. But what I wanted to touch on was also Lies of P. It's supposed to be the Souls-like game. It's also supposedly supposed to be something like a Bloodborne successor. Possibly coming to Game Pass. And there's also going to be more shown about it at Gamescom. That's coming up this upcoming week, actually. Tuesday, hopefully I'll be able to do something live with that, probably jump in with some people, depending on what's going on now. I think that would be a beautiful thing. But we're getting some rumors and things that it may be dropping into Game Pass. Which, if Lies of P drops into Game Pass, I think that's going to be something. I think that's going to be marketing genius kind of put to the test. Because if it does, that means Xbox is obviously doubling down on making sure that their consumers understand that they do hear that they want more content within their service, that they want good content within their service of as quality. And it's of that echelon. And when you have a game like Elden Ring that has sold over 15 million copies within 3 months of release, you kind of want to build off of that hype. And then when you mix it in with you seemingly hearing like, oh, this could be something like Bloodborne, or you looking at some of the fluidity of the game and the style of the game and the way that it's coming across to you, and you're getting some of those same elements, because not all Souls like games are the same. They all have different aesthetics. You could be really not complimenting, but capitalizing more so off of something that has become a phenomenon this year. And I don't see any real other games other than God of War. I think it's going to come out too late, though. Competing for that God of War, not God of War, but Game of the Year stage, whereas Elden Ring is. So again, this could be something else that could fit in that same category if it pops off. Pong, I mean, now that you're back, we talked about this a little bit on the back end. I know the audio listeners didn't get this, didn't get this part of the conversation, and maybe we got some newer people that are in here that didn't get that part of it. Also, we see you got Mitchie in here, we got Salad in here now, we got Shane in there, Casket is here. Maybe they didn't hear the conversation. How are you feeling about Lies of P potentially coming to Game Pass, as we've gotten information from the Snitch, who has, for those who don't know, if you're not in part of the Twitterverse, on Twitter, the Snitch is some guy who's popped up within the last 6 months who seemingly It's just he has a connection to the algorithm or something because he's come out with information of like God of War, and some other games that have been part of that too, where he's just been right more times than not. Not saying that he's never been wrong because he definitely has been.
He has,
but
yep.
he's a shooter, 80-20 right now. So. Yep. How are you feeling about some of these things possibly happening? Again, Liza P was coming to Gamescom regardless. So if they tie that in with Game Pass, do you agree with me that there's maybe Xbox is sat down with some meetings and really figured out how they need to address their marketing, especially as we've seen with some of the Brazil talk we had last weekend, where they're seemingly like, hey, man, we tired of y'all crying wolf. We're playing a big dog game now. What are you thinking about this whole situation, man?
Yeah, I think as we talked about beforehand, again, I had mentioned this last week when we talked about Gamescom because Xbox had done a big promotional push and we saw everybody from Xbox is over there, like Phil, Sarah, Matt Booty, everybody. And then they come out with the Xbox Wire. And again, Xbox has had a presence at Gamescom in the past. It's not like they've not been there before, but to me, this feels a little bit different. And then when Xbox Wire came out with their kind of presser about Gamescom and that they're doing this 3 or 5 hour block of time that Xbox is going to have like live streamed, like where they're going to have people, developers and stuff. And then they gave the list of games. Liza P was the one that stood out to me because it's third party. We had seen it. Some people were talking about it when it was first announced, but it kind of had disappeared again. And we hadn't heard anybody having marketing rights. We hadn't really seen any kind of push as of yet for it. And now all of a sudden it shows up on the list that it's going to be at the Xbox stage at Gamescom. And I said last week on the show, I was like, that's the one that stood out. That was like, very, very interesting because the thing is, Steel, and you touched on it. When you look at Liza P, go back and look at it. Instantaneously, it's Bloodborne. And Bloodborne, as we know, is exclusive to Sony's ecosystem, right? They've got it on lock. People have been demanding a remake of Bloodborne now for years. There's a whole group of people in this community, huge Bloodborne fans. There's people who still, shout out to Joe, that think that this is the greatest Souls game ever, that Bloodborne is the number one, right? So if Xbox, and again, I don't care, you know me, I don't care about exclusives. If it's coming to Game Pass, I could care less, okay? I don't care where it goes. I don't care if it's on everything. But the point of fact is if Microsoft has looked at things and looked at the landscape and they've seen what a Bloodborne has done for Sony, where there's this huge passionate community. And that was even prior to Souls being more than niche ever since Elden Ring. Now, Elden Ring being the phenomenon it has expanded that audience even more. So if Xbox looked over there and saw what Bloodborne meant to Sony, and they pulled out the wallet and funded a part of this game or did a third-party deal with the developer of Liza P to get it on Xbox and to make sure it was in Game Pass day and date, that's a shrewd business move because it is a genre. Yes, Dark Souls have been on Xbox, but again, we always talk about what that association is. And because of Bloodborne, prior to, obviously, Elden Ring, but because of Bloodborne, Souls games were always still associated with Sony's side of things.
Demon Souls too.
Demon Souls, etc. Demon Souls obviously being the original. Again, I played it all the way back on PS3. So I that association was with Sony. So if Microsoft wants to start whittling away at that, again, to make a deal like this with, again, I'm not saying Liza P is going to be as good as Bloodborne. We don't know anything. This game could not be. But from what I've seen, it's got real potential here because it's got a lot of the same aesthetics. If this is the next big thing in the Souls-like genre, Microsoft making this deal to get it over on Xbox makes total sense. And it would be a huge W for them, even if it's not exclusive, even if it's just coming to Game Pass, because we also know the effect that Game Pass has. If it's in Game Pass, it's like having exclusive in a lot of ways when it comes to marketing, because everybody associates it with Xbox because everybody's talking about, hey, it's coming to Game Pass day one. It's coming to Game Pass day one. Even if it's on other consoles to purchase, the fact that it's in there in that subscription service, it automatically gets branded with Xbox.
And the other important thing too is if they do the marketing right on this, the actual developers themselves, they're also basing it off the Pinocchio story.
Yes.
So you're taking a well-known character and putting this gameplay behind it that is also seemingly getting a lot of traction. There could be a huge audience that could be reached with this. People are like, my Pinocchio game, Liza P. Well, what story are they trying to tell with this?
Dark fantasy Pinocchio, which hasn't been done. It's an interesting concept. It's something that definitely can draw people in. And I think, Steel, that again, I think that it showing up on the game stage here at Gamescom means that they've done something special with this, that they obviously, this is one that they have put money out for in some capacity. Again, we'll find out more, I'm sure. But I think that this definitely could be a huge, huge W for Xbox, especially if it turns out to be a well-polished, really good game. I think, man, then they caught, they're catching it at the right time. And I think that this is, again, it's just a chess move, looking at the landscape, realizing, hey, we don't have this per se on our side. Outside of, obviously, we got Dark Souls, we got Elden Ring, we got that stuff as third party, but we just don't have that unique one in the ecosystem that says, hey, I'm going to go get Game Pass to play this game. And I think they're taking a chance on this one. And I'm all for it, man. All for it.
Yeah, so, I'm 100% behind it. It's looking really good. So wait to see more information about it. Again, more crazy news that we can get as things spark up, man. We're getting to the fall months. This is the time where you really start hammering people over the head, get them excited what they can expect for the winter, Christmas. I think this is going to be a major holiday going into 2023, especially. Bro, there is so many things that you can tie together right now that if you do it right, the beginning of 2023, especially, I don't think Starfield is going to get pushed back into the fall. I think Starfield is going to come out within the first 3 months of the year. And if that is the case, I think so personally. Right. I think Starfield.
I'm all for it, brother. I'm all for it.
I think Starfield's coming out March. All right. March type. I don't think it's as far as behind as people are trying to admit. Again, you said the date was in pen. For them to move the date and not give another date, sure, they can push it off even further if they wanted to. But if you put that date in pen originally, that tells me as someone who is not, I'm just a game fan. I love games. I like the development. I like to pay attention to a lot of behind the scenes. You tell me as someone who pays attention to those things.
Yep. I
think they're giving themselves room, but they're also giving themselves an opportunity again to do something like a 3/23/2023.
Yeah.
That's a me. Again,
that date's always made sense to me as well.
So I've said it from the beginning. So it's like, that's what I would like to see. If they're able to do that, get all the marketing right, solidify some things, and really end off this holiday with as many games as we're anticipating for 2023.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got your seatbelt on tight. Like, I really do.
And Pinocchio, we can't forget too, Steel. Pinocchio is going to be in people's minds again, the name Pinocchio, because Guillermo del Toro's new movie is coming out this year as well in December.
Wow, that is true.
Yeah, and he's got a different take. He's not going, at least from the looks of it, it's not as dark a theme as Liza P, but the name Pinocchio is going to be in people's minds. And when people find out that Liza P standing for Pinocchio, it's gonna be, it's a great time to have this coming out for your ecosystem. So
it drew my attention. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Pinocchio fan, but it is something that I grew up with. So it's like when I heard Liza P and then I looked into it, of course, I automatically assumed it was Pinocchio. I mean, who else would you think of when you see the character and you say Liza P? I'm like, Liza P, what the hell is this? And then you go look at the gameplay and like, Pinocchio. All right, what are you doing with this? Like, okay. And I'm always interested in the darker side of it because that is something I haven't gotten. I got the story, the original Disney story is still kind of messed up. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah.
But even comparing, like, it's not as dark as the original story is. Even more, which is even more messed up. And if this game could kind of tie everything together along with the marketing, what Xbox is doing. It gets into a service. It gets all the attention that it needs. Again, yeah, he's got some other content that can support. A lot of things are just working in the right direction, so that gets me. Especially as a fan of that type of genre.
Isildur's Bane brings up a good date too. If it's not early, if it is closer to that May area, 5/23/23 also makes a lot of sense. First of all, that'd be a freaking awesome birthday week present for me at Starfield.
That would be.
It turns out to be 555 if you add the 2 3s together. So another God Howard date would work at 5/23/23 because it is a Tuesday as well. So there are some dates for God Howard to choose from since he loves his special dates. So
yeah, exactly. Shane uses as an example, Redfall late January, Forza Motorsport mid-March, Minecraft Legends late April, Diablo 4 late May, Starfield late June, Avowed late November. What a year, plus all the indies and third parties. Shane, I mean, you put together quite a year. I mean, again, and then
you're gonna have Contraband in there too. Contraband's gonna be ready as well.
5, 6 exclusive. That's just 6 exclusive that year.
Yep, and then Contraband.
But
Contraband's gonna be ready.
Exclusives are a problem right now, right, ladies and gentlemen? Keep that in mind. Exclusives are a problem. A lot of people determine their ecosystem from exclusives, so keep that in mind. We'll see.
He's not even throwing in Stalker 2. He's not throwing in any of the other stuff that we know.
You're missing a bunch of games.
It's going to be crazy next year if they hold steady. It's going to be crazy.
But this is exactly the reason why I don't, like you've mentioned it, now you give me a date, I'm not going to believe you. But it's why I've always had that mentality. It's just because, like,
you're better than us, Steel. You're better than us.
I don't know about all
that. Yeah, you're better, man. You're just better.
It's just for me. It's just I take games as they come. Like, I like getting excited for them, but I learned early on that companies like to show us things, and then I don't get them for years later. I remember as a kid going through magazines and everything else, and you're like, oh, yeah, it looks really cool. And
it used to be a lot better, though, Steel. It used to be a lot better.
It did. They used to pace out better and everything, but I agree with that. But at the same time, it's like, I guess that I've built up that callus for it. So,
I'm cool with them. Like, we've talked about it, too, going back to the old ways and not showing us anything until they're ready. Again, I'm the guy who wants to see everything. I just said dates-wise, I ain't listening to you till 2 weeks out from here on out. Yeah. But if they go back to where they don't show us anything until they're ready and it is locked, I'm cool with that. That's fine with me.
Especially if we're getting complete games more so now, because that's the other thing. I know the $70 conversation was coming up. Came up again. You and Bear Spaces and people you making videos, and you and Mav said y'all ain't going to talk about it again.
We might have talked about it because Mav has to go on a rant. He can't help himself, brother.
No, he can't. He can't help himself. I mean, again, we could use that as a get some help segment right here if you'd like. That's completely up to you. Real quick, just because the conversation's there, again, it's not something that we got to dive super deep into. But again, using inflation as a reason, it's not a good reason. Using, I don't know, the economy as a reason, I don't think it's a good reason either. I think when you have those very surface level conversations, you're missing the wider picture. You're missing the fact that you're actually getting less content that you've ever gotten before. I miss, this is one thing I do miss about physical games. Is part of the reason I don't like getting physical things anymore. I miss getting that poster in the case. I miss getting the instructions that I never looked at in the case. Just having that picture there. I miss potentially getting some added benefit of whatever extra pamphlet was in that case, right?
Of course.
I used to be excited.
Stickers.
There was a 2 week
stickers.
There was a 2 week trial for Xbox Live in there sometimes. You know, I miss getting those things. I miss the cases because we used to judge your whole purchase off of what the front of that case looked like.
Artwork.
The artwork, it took talent, right? People had to draw your attention in. You've made bad purchases because of artwork. Now, I don't mind the whole digital era and everything, but ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to conflate things and compare things to each other and use those as metrics for why things should be the way they are, I think you're missing the point. Like, it doesn't. somebody brought up an excellent point. They said, hey, what if games sold for $40 and they still sold as many copies as they did? You spent $100 million on a game. Like, I'll bring this point up too because it's funny. People like when people say, oh, it took $100 million to make the game. It's just like, do you think that's only for the game? So you don't think the devs get paid at all while they're making the game?
Yep.
Is that what you think?
Yep.
No, that's not the way it works,
Steel.
That's not the way the world works.
Steel.
These people are getting paid. That $100 million is the budget for everything. Like I understand that everybody needs to know business. I'm not going to say I'm the most business inclined or it doesn't, but come on. We can rub a couple neurons together. We can rub some sticks together. We can eventually create a fire if we just listen to each other and help each other out a little bit. If they just spent $100 million, $200 million, and they're still selling games at $70, if they're selling they sell 10 million copies, they sell 5 million at that price, they're making their money back. Everything else is extra. If people make it seem like, oh, but they gotta make the most they can. Yeah, they're a business, of course. That doesn't justify the price tag, though. It's been proven you can sell the game for half price and you'll still be in the black. You'll be actually in the green. You'll actually still make a good enough amount of money. But it's business. You're gonna do whatever you can to get that max profit out of your consumer, because that's what it's for. And if your consumer's willing to pay it, that's just what it is, man. But it doesn't mean that we can't speak out on it. Doesn't mean it doesn't need to be a conversation. But like me and Pong have here all the time, and I'll kind of throw this into our Get Some Help segments. I'll be the leader of it this time. Us having the conversation, but also having the more open-ended conversation, it just shows you where the industry's at. And I don't want people to forget that your opinion can change things. The one thing that makes the gaming industry different from a lot of other industries, we have a direct reflection on where the direction goes. Gacha games and the Battle Royale games aren't where they are without the audience. If people stop playing it, guess what? The game dies. Now we're looking for a different way. It's very unique in that way, at least to me. I mean, Paul, like, how do you feel it? Taking a little bit of a different approach, having the conversation. I mean, like, how do you feel about it? Do you still think it's a conversation to have if we're going to have a open conversation? I don't know if it's necessarily a conversation to have if you're just sticking to, oh, it's inflation, and oh, you should be spending this, and oh, like the disingenuous side of it. Like, how do you think about that?
Listen, first of all, a couple special shout outs here. Stuff Sean showing up here in the chat. Always good to see you, brother. Thunder for Shock. Awesome to see you as well.
Ooh,
Dank Nate. Great to see you coming over from the Doom Slayer Den last night. Hey, great to see you as well. I did a special appearance over there with Lord Saab and Stable. It was awesome. Shout out to ATL dropping in here. Live Supremacy. Silent Cypher, brother. Always great to see you. Muppet 1169. What's been going on, man? Hey, listen, Steve, when it comes to this stuff, right? Again, this is such a boring conversation at this point. Listen, there's two conversations to be had here. The problem being is that some people like to jump into gamers saying, I don't want to spend $70, and taking the business side of things. I have done this conversation multiple times. From a business side of things, of course, all of these companies would not be here if they're not making money. They can make a business decision anytime they want to and up charges to $70. That's a business move. It's up to the consumer to push back and say, no, I'm not buying your games at that. But when it comes to people specifically like Sony, like 2K, like EA, they know there is a certain percentage of the fan base that will continuously say, $10, I'll buy it anyways. I don't care. I've got FOMO. I need the game. So they're going to push the line as far as they can. Until the sales numbers are affected, they will continue to push this line. But as a gamer, I can say, no, I'm not willing as a gamer, as a regular human being, to pay more for something than I have to. I'm a value dude. And I think most people are, right? And especially nowadays.
But doesn't that make you just a broke boy, Paul?
No, that's fine. I don't care what you call me. I'm 47 years old. I don't care. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life that have put me in this position. I don't care. Shit. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Call me a broke gamer. I'm still not going to pay more than I think is necessary. But I'm also not the person that says, absolutely not. I'm never going to buy $70 game. Look, I spent $120 on Battlefield. Okay, so I'm not the guy out here pocket watching everybody. Do you want to spend $70 because the game is worth it to you? Go right ahead. But you can't come in and gatekeep or come in and try to cancel people's conversations just because you want to defend the corporation from a business side of things. And because you can throw out big words like inflation and macro and microeconomics, you think that gives you some more validation to your point, and that others should just be like, oh, he's right. He's smarter than me. I shouldn't talk about this stuff. No,
he's smarter than me.
Because you don't understand fully what you're even saying. Because if you did, if you were being intellectually honest, then you would also know that the buying power of the dollar from back then is nowhere near what it is today, because our wages have not matched the cost of living increase. So then you would also know that that does not work out the same way. That's why we now have to have, a lot of us have to have 2 income families to buy the same stuff as our 1 income family households back in the day did. And we're barely making it.
Yep.
So the buying power of the consumer is not the same, but you don't bring that up because, again, you just want to use big words to try to shut down people's conversations over your favorite company. And that's where I have an issue with it. Gamers, consumers as a whole, we are all allowed to say, no, I don't want to pay this. And if you're going to try to come in and use the business side to shut down that, then all you do you're just a bootlicker. But I can guarantee you don't walk in to go buy your brand new car and the dealership says, hey, we got a $5,000 rebate on this. And you turn around and go, nah, I want the premium experience. So you know what? I don't want that rebate. Don't give me that rebate. I'm going to pay the full price. You know what? In fact,
don't give me the rebate.
You know what? In fact, since you gave me such a premium customer service experience here at this dealership, I'm going to give you guys an extra $1,000 on top of that price. That's not what you do in real life.
Shit, that's funny.
Listen, brother, we're all out here looking for deals. Okay, we're all out here trying to save a buck. We all worry about our money. Even rich people are cheap asses, most of them, and that's how they got rich.
That's how
they don't overpay for things that they don't feel is worth it. Again, can we all justify? Absolutely. I justified buying an OLED TV. Right? I didn't need an OLED. I didn't need this. I could have saved half and bought myself a regular LED 4K that did 120 and I would have been happy. But I justified the OLED, right? So we all do that. But again, at the end of the day, these conversations are valid. These companies came out and were bragging about how much extra money they were making these days. Record profits on top of record profits because of things like DLC.
That was before the price change.
Because of things like DLC, because of microtransactions, because of all these things, because there's a bigger base of consumers now buying your products. And a lot of the costs associated, as Steel was talking about with the physical side of things, has disappeared now because digital is so strong that that's how they're making these record profits. So don't come out and try to tell me, well, the company needs to do this because of inflation. This is fair. They can do this after all this time.
Well, you don't want gaming to be successful, Paul.
Listen. These companies are record profits right now. They are off the charts. So don't come at me and try to tell me that I can't talk about the fact that I don't like these games being pushed as the new norm for $70 when you are going ahead and telling me just a month prior how much record profit your company was making off of us. Okay. That does not compute. Okay. And don't try to explain to me, well, you're getting more features. You know what I'm also getting? I'm getting more patches these days. I'm also getting right. I'm getting more patches these days. I'm getting more half half-hearted games these days that they just assume we're all going to wait around to be fixed, right? I'm also getting pushed on the, hey, I need new cosmetics. I need to look pretty in my games. I need that DLC. I need that battle pass. I'm getting pushed all that as well on top of it that I never used to back.
But we don't want to talk about that, though.
We don't want to talk about that.
We don't want to talk about that.
We ignore all that. Okay. So yeah, everybody out here is still doing these spaces, trying to defend $70 games. Look, you're talking to a wall, because at the end of the day, people still have the right as a consumer to say, no, this is not enough. And again, defending your company, your billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company over price hikes is not a good look no matter what. Again, if you're having a specific business conversation and you're talking about the business of the industry and you're having that discussion or that debate on that level, that's fine. But if you go ahead and throw that in the consumer's face saying, no, I just don't want to spend $70, you're wrong. Okay. And you do need to get some help at that point, because you're just wrong. You're trying to use your air of superiority to shut down any conversation over your plastic god. Okay. And that's not right. That's not right. So.
Nah, that shit just doesn't make sense, man. And it's like, and then you hear the bark back that, oh, well, you just don't like games then. Like,
and you're right, Stuff Sean. We should care about the shareholders and their yachts. Who's going to pay for those yachts if we don't, right? You're right, Stuff Sean.
Like, a lot of times I try to figure out who people are talking to, and then but it's like I ask myself these questions, but people have a lot of yes men behind them too. Like, yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, people love that, but people just love it. We got quality. You got to pay for quality, bro. I can't say the last time I paid for quality. Quality's been very lacking.
Got that big brain energy, brother.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Again, whatever it takes for you to be happy. I guess that's all that matters. Again, I mean, needless to say, with that conversation, it's going to be something that's going to happen consistently. People are going to bring it up. The consumer is going to be mad about it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't have that conversation. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, we're tired of it. Well, that's why you expand your community. It's not just the 1,000 people that Joe or Schmo is watching or that has watching them. It's not. I can care less. If we have 30 people watching or we have 1,500 people watching, there's 30 actual people who are watching and tuning into our content. And that's how I picture it. It's like I'm talking, you guys are joining, we're sitting in a living room having a conversation. And it just might be a living room now, but what if me and Pong could turn it into an auditorium? What if we start a whole collective, we start our own collective, and now we're talking to, arenas full of people talking about the $70 subject and why they should care and why it matters and why you should look at other things and why we haven't got complete content and why we should have a RTS conversation, not a first person conversation, just all in your face all the time. That's not what it's about. It's not. But that's neither here or there. Pong, I mean, I kind of pulled the conversation a few different ways. We could at this point, I feel like it would be a good turnaround to jump into Embracer Group creating their future reign. I wanted to kind of put a pun on words there.
The empire is rising, sir.
Lord
Lars Wolfgars.
Oh God, the Tower of Sarod is getting built right now at Embracer headquarters. I'm telling you, bro.
It is. Embracer, great to see you too as well. And you're right. Games can be fixed.
Yes.
I was just mentioning that devs now have actually turned that from, hey, we're just going to fix a few of the problems that we missed into a crutch to release games that should not be released and say, well, we could patch it out. That's not a problem.
That's not good.
Yeah. That's where it's gone wrong, is they've started using that as a ploy to get their games out. So
that's like,
hopefully that's changing now too.
That's like somebody selling you a refrigerator with an ice maker. And then them saying that, hey, you can buy this fridge right now, but there is an update coming to the ice maker, so you can't use it right now.
Yeah.
You have to wait till that patch comes out, because if you want cubed ice, it's only going to make long bricks of ice, and it doesn't know how to cut it up yet. So you got to wait for that. Like you'd be looking at the guy what are you talking about? Like,
I hope you like warm water. We'll get you cold soon. Don't worry.
It's in an update. We're gonna patch it in. Like I understand we make concessions for things, but Lord, like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
But But yeah, so we definitely want to talk about a little bit about Embracer is definitely Mr. Steal Your Girl at this point. Embracer is somebody that you want to look at, somebody that you want to pay attention to. Yeah, that's actually why I paid that. Yeah. Stuff Sean says Embracer Group is the gamer equivalent of that girlfriend that steals all your cool t-shirts to wear to bed. Yeah, shout out to my wife who steals all my cool shirts, and now they're her shirts. So I mean, there's that. But no. But it's exactly that. I know we've brought up Embracer Group here quite a few times. We have actually also mentioned that there's somebody to look out for because they do seem to be building their own kingdom of IP. You know, they are not lacking IP at all. At this point, it literally comes across as if though they're just creating a library of content to eventually kind of just rent out to people. You know, you go to that, you got your local library, you get your library card, and they're going to be the library, and they're going to make all these different development houses or these different publishers come to their library and force them to get a library card. Hey, you want to check out our content? We need $5 for that library card, and then you're going to have to renew that every year. So they should continue to get this content in there because they are building quite an empire. We made the play about Embracer building their Tower of Sauron because they got the rights to the Lord of the Rings, guys. Like, not all of it. Like, I mean, like, there's some older movies that they can't mess with or anything like that. But, like, as far as, like, new content goes, they're leading the charge. Like, people are going to have to come to them to get their Lord of the Rings content now, which is super crazy to me. Pong, like, I want you to kind of lead this a little bit because you've had a chance to talk about it a couple times. I've looked at it a little bit, but I want to hear more so your opinion on how are you feeling about Embracer stepping into the light, really kind of double, triple, quadrupling down and saying, hey, we don't only want the kingdom, as I mentioned earlier, we want the full Tower of Sauron. We're going to build our own orc army, and we're going to be ready for a war whenever we need to be. The only thing we're missing is like a dedicated box or streaming service or whatever the case may be at this point. Like, how are you feeling about that, man?
Loving it, as you know, Steele. I've been on the Embracer train for a long time. Shout out to Fahim too. Great friend of the show. Fahim, great to see you dropping here, brother. I've been on this train for a long time, especially after the Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal purchase. And they had that big interview over at gamesindustry.biz with Lars, the CEO of Embracer Group. That dude is now my second favorite CEO next to Phil, man. This guy
has the same vision we had, right?
He's got the same vision, and I'd love to get him and Phil to sit down and talk about the future of the industry because they're so in line with each other. This guy respects, for those that don't know, you guys, if you guys have been here for a while, you've heard us talk about this nonstop. But Lars is a CEO, and again, I bring him up. There's a lot bigger team, obviously, at Embracer, but Lars is the face, and obviously, just like Phil, his philosophy transcends the company, right? It filters down to everybody, and he's got people around him who believe in the same type of vision. So for him, he respects the history of IPs. And again, specifically here, we're going to talk gaming stuff, but obviously Lord of the Rings is a transmedia, which he talks about all the time, transmedia IP. He respects the history of IPs. He's a fan. He's a nerd at heart. He started out in comic books, importing and selling comic books. That's how he started his business. So he was a comic book fan. He was a gaming fan. He was a movie fan. The guy gets what it means to have nostalgia for IPs and what that can bring. And again, Embracer started out small. We didn't hear about Embracer Group, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Nobody would never know who Embracer Group was. They started out gobbling up small AA stuff that people just have forgotten about, that was dead and buried a long time ago, right? And they started buying smaller studios that were in that space of AA's. And that's how they all got their start. Now they've continued that trend with a lot of AA purchases, but you've now seen him get into the AAA space with Gearbox, with Crystal Dynamics, with Eidos Montreal. And slowly but surely, they've now acquired what can only be considered an empire. And they positioned themselves in this generation to be a power player without being one of the historic publishers like an EA, like a Ubisoft, right? Like all the other ones, 2Ks. He's positioned himself and that company to be a major player with the AA space, with now AAAs as well. But what he's done is he's found value in every single one of the purchases. Yeah. People are out here going, they spent how much? Wait, they got Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal for how much? You know, in the world right now where we're seeing Microsoft and Xbox pay $70 billion for an Activision Blizzard, right?
Yeah.
Here's Embracer Group just gobbling up all these studios that are quality studios, much like Xbox's purchase of like Obsidian and Exile, Compulsion, right? Those at the end of this generation will be considered value purchases, like, or Sony when they bought Insomniac for a ridiculous, whatever it was, $200 million, $300 million or whatever it is. That's what Embracer's modeling themselves after. They're going out and finding these value devs and these value IP that they believe they can turn into something more. So when you see like a Tripwire, who is known for Killing Floor and for Man Eater, that's a AA team that has put out quality games in that space. What happens if they let them grow a little bit, like Xbox has done with Obsidian, in Exile, all these other teams? What happens if they let them grow and become a bigger team and maybe get into that low-end AAA space? Now what kind of quality are you going to get out of these teams? Again, proven that they can make it in this space work. So Embracer, to me, is doing this the right way. They now have 120 studios still.
Bro,
120 studios.
They have, I just looked it up also, they have over 12,750 employees.
Yeah, and I think it's like 14,000 actually, or something like that. Yeah. It's approaching 14,000 after these recent purchases. 14,000. They own over 850 IP or franchises still. 850. Now all of it, again, we're not talking about Blockbuster, right? We're talking about things like Time Splitters, who everybody outside of my generation had forgotten about. It was dead and buried. I never thought in a million years I'd ever see Time Splitters come back into the games industry. Here we are today in 2022. We know full well they went out and purchased Time Splitters IP. And on top of that, Lars went and got some of the original devs to come in to head up the project. And we're getting a Time Splitters 4 during this generation. Listen, this is why I love this company, because as somebody who, yes, I love new IP as much as the next person does. I love seeing new environments, new worlds to go explore, everything, new stories, new characters. I love all that, but there's still a part of me that loves the nostalgia.
Real quick though, Pong.
Yeah.
It's because I don't mean to interrupt you, but Fahim's bringing up some good points in here because he wasn't familiar with who Lars is, the CEO of Embracer Group. He was asking some questions about him, and Fahim now brings up another good point because you're kind of on the high end of Embracer and you know bigging them up and everything. And Fahim is like, that's a lot of studios. Why does this not worry people?
Because Fahim, a lot of these studios would not continue to exist if it wasn't for an Embracer Group coming along, right? A lot of these studios were smaller studios that were one bad game away from it not being good. And again, you got to remember, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, most, I'm not going to say all, but most of these studios are started by the founders with the eventual idea that they will be purchased by somebody bigger. Because this industry is one of the most high-risk industries ever. And again, those studios live game to game to game, just like paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. They have to pay for all their marketing. They have to do all their marketing. They have to go connect with the right people. All that time and resources and money that is spent elsewhere outside of just creating the game. So most of these studio heads, when they found a brand new studio, they have the idea, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to prove ourselves. We're going to create the game that we wanted to create, or 2 games that we wanted to create, or 3 games that we wanted to create. Hopefully they're going to be successful, but in the back of their heads, they're always thinking about whose eye are we going to catch. You don't think that when Jade Raymond started her New Haven studio and then partnered up with Sony, that she didn't have in the back of her mind, maybe we'll get purchased. Maybe Sony will invite us in. And guess what exactly happened? Sony brought the entire team into the fold before they even put out their first game. That's an entrepreneurial spirit. And again, that's why we see so many people. Once that happens, we see a lot of founders break off eventually and go start another brand new studio, right? They fulfilled their destiny with that studio. So again, Embracer Group is doing good work out here that gives these dev teams that maybe were one bad game away from folding up shop and gives them the security, just like we've seen with Xbox. Again, is there a lot of things that could go wrong? Yeah, absolutely. Embracer Group's still a business, as we just got done talking about. They have outside investors who are not a part of this industry, which is a red flag to me, as always, because we're talking about Middle Eastern investors, Saudis, okay, have invested heavily into Embracer Group. Could that go bad someday? Of course. Of course it could. And again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I've spoken out about China and about Tencent getting their hands in on everything. I don't like the outside getting involved. Unfortunately, in this industry, money's required, and there's some big players out there who want to invest. But at the end of the day, Embracer Group right now is doing it the Xbox way. That's why I like Lars Wolfgar so much as CEO, because he's got the same mentality as Phil. He's going to buy up these companies, give them the blanket security of knowing that they don't have to do all the marketing stuff. They don't have to spend all these resources, time, money, etc., manpower elsewhere, and they can simply do what they do best, which is focus on being creative and creating the games that they want. He said that multiple times. And another thing, if people need to like Lars a little bit more, and after this recent announcement of all these different purchases they made, somebody asked him, what do you see for the future of gaming? And again, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'm just talking about getting back to the basics. I think everybody needs to get back to the basics. No more talk about blockchain, NFTs, etc. Just get back to the basics of making games. So again, this guy has that Phil mentality. Like, hey, all this nonsense that's surrounding the game industry, yeah, it's business at the end of the day, but really what matters is giving the people what they want. And Lars wants to go resurrect IP that we would never see again. Legacy of Kain, Deus Ex, Thief, Time Splitters, I already mentioned it. These games, these franchises had the potential to be buried forever. But when Embracer Group brings these dev teams underneath the umbrella, guess what happens? All of a sudden, the dev teams are given freedom to go back to these old IP, because Lars also had a quote this week when he talked about new IP. And he said, games are great at making games are profitable, or games are great at being profitable with IP long term, but they're not great at starting new IP per se. So that's why he's going and buying this established IP, even nostalgic IP that has maybe a small fan base that still remembers it from back in the day. It's not starting from scratch. And to him, that's important when it comes to gaming. But again, Embracer Group is a media conglomerate. Okay. They're not trying to just be gaming.
Right.
They are also transmedia. They bought Dark Horse Comics last year.
Yep.
Now they buy Lord of the Rings IP.
Yep.
Right? Lars has talked about that. He loves IP that can go everywhere.
Yep.
So again, they're reducing the risk even more that comes associated with making games by having a diverse collection of IP that can be put elsewhere. So let's say they make a game. It doesn't make as much as the investor wanted. But let's say that IP is also going to have a TV show or a movie or a book deal or whatever the case may be, that can make up for all of that on the back end. That's what Lars is trying to do to create stability here. So again, Embracer Group for me is the pinnacle right now of what can happen when you have somebody at the head who understands that, hey, there's still a place in this gaming industry for double A's. There's still a place for this older IP to come back to life again, because it already has an established fan base, even if it's small. But Embracer Group as a whole is now the one-stop shop for everybody. And again, I know, we talked about this. I don't care about exclusives, but exclusivity does bring with it some profitability as well for some businesses. So Embracer Group, think about this. I think that they could potentially start their own subscription service eventually.
They could,
okay? Yeah. And they could shop it to Xbox. They could shop it to Sony. They could shop it to Nintendo even, and have their own streaming subscription service with as much content as they have. Let me throw out a couple numbers for you. 25 AAA games in the next 4 years. 25 AAA games. As much as I just talked about the AA side, They've got 25 AAA games coming in the next 6 years still. They've got over 200 games in development right now. They could create their own subscription service, which would be ridiculous. Of course, it all depends on pricing and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they could do that. But let's say they don't do that. Let's say they just continue to make traditional games the way that they are. If Xbox has a hole in Game Pass, let's say they look at their roadmap and they say June next year, we got this big hole. We need an action RPG.
Oh, well,
where are you going to go for? Where are you going to go for that? Yeah, Phil's going to pick up the phone and call Lars and be like, Lars, listen, man, need an action RPG next June. What's your pipeline looking like? You know what Lars is going to do? Lars is going to be like, yeah, Phil. Listen, I got 3, maybe 4. I got probably 4 action RPGs coming out within that time frame. And Phil's going to be like, send them. Let's see what you got. And he's going to be able to pick what he needs for Game Pass.
Yep.
Cut a deal. They're going to be the one-stop shop. But again, I think that's not going to be their main business. I think Embracer Group as a whole is going to put as many games everywhere as possible. And I think that that's what you're going to see happening. They're still going to continue to have their PC driven side of things. You know, if the devs are PC driven side, they're going to stay PC driven, right? We saw that with the THQ Nordic last showcase, right? They showed off 18 games. They got 43 total in development. So there's another 25, but there was about half of them were PC only games right now. They're going to continue to do what they do best. But Embracer Group as a whole is a good thing. Lord of the Rings coming to Embracer Group. And remember, there's one studio that is not to be named yet due to contracts or commercial stuff, meaning that this studio probably has a game coming out very soon, maybe published by somebody else. So they're not announcing that studio yet, but we're going to hear about that in the future. But Lord of the Rings IP, I think this is one of the best landing spots for it, because I think that from a gamer standpoint, we're going to get more Lord of the Rings IP than we did previously. Because think about this. They're not going to force Lord of the Rings IP down everybody's throats as far as devs go. But think about out of those 120 studios, there's got to be some people in there over the past 10, 15, 20, 25 years that have had some really great Lord of the Rings ideas, but never thought they would have the opportunity to work on a Lord of the Rings game. Now that Embracer owns it, it's open and available to all those dev studios. How many are going to pop up and say, hey, by the way, we got this great idea that we've had for a very long time for Lord of the Rings. Now that we own it, our parent company, can we get that? Because we really like to do this game. There's going to be some really cool stuff that come out of this.
And let me drop some extra clarity in there for those who don't know, because I don't know exactly how this ended up playing out. But I am going to pulling this from The Verge, talking about this whole Embracer deal and everything, saying here's what Embracer Group can and can't do with Lord of the Rings, since you're speaking on that now. So one of the first questions that come up are, does Embracer Group own the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? And they're going to say short answer, no, long answer, no. To be clear, book publishing rights still belong to the Tolkien family, as does anything to do with the Silmarillion, I'm probably saying that wrong, and Tolkien's other posthumously published works. Previously published works, so I just say that. Warner Brothers also retains some feature-length production rights as part of the license it obtained from Middle-earth Enterprises, back when it was known as Tolkien Enterprises in the late 90s. That's how we got the Peter Jackson movies, and why we're getting the Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim animated film feature due in 2024. As part of its licensing deal, likely has to keep producing Lord of the Rings media lest they risk the rights to returning to its original owners. The Rings of Power show also skirts around this deal, with it having to come to an agreement directly with the Tolkien estate. So what does Embracer own? Middle-earth Enterprises, according to its website, owns exclusive world rights to motion picture, merchandising, stage, and other rights in certain literary works of Tolkien, including The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbits. This means Embracer can pick from any of one of its 120 game studios and say, make an Omer's Horse adventure game, and that'd be perfectly fine, as long as it was Book Omer and not Carl Urban Omer. This is not the Embracer Group's first foray in the Tolkien universe. In 2021, the company acquired Asmodee, a French board, role-playing, and card game company that had published Lord of the Ring flavored card and board games for several decades.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that. Lars loves board games too.
Yeah.
He's big into board games too. It's crazy. The guy, like I said, he's a nerd at heart, man. I love him.
And that's why I also wanted to throw in this. This is coming from gamesindustry.biz, from a interview that they actually ended up doing from Embracer. This was from June 14th, 2022. Where he's essentially taking, he made some comments on the deal because they got some money from Saudi Arabia. I know that makes some people feel weird, but he came out and says, hey, we will not change in any way after the Saudi Arabia investment of $1 billion. But there was a couple points that he brought up in here, just talking about how they do things and some of the philosophy that they have and things like that. Where was it at? Let's see. Embracer is built on the principles of freedom, inclusion, humanity, and openness. He wrote, the transaction with SDG will not change this in any way. He also adds that they have invested in Embracer because they support our current vision, strategy, and leadership, not to change it. Windforce discussed how the growth of Embracer has necessitated seeking international investors, and that has already secured financial support from various shareholders across the Middle East, Africa region, as well as Asia. Again, this is just kind of doubling down on a lot of the points that Pong was bringing up earlier, while we were kind of shining a huge light on Lars and everything, is because he does believe that there is a bigger picture out there. He wants people to be able to have more access to games than they've ever had before. That means whether that's the IP not dying, as Pong also stated, that probably would have ended up happening. There's certain places where IP lives where they may end up dying if they don't move to somewhere else, where you have almost 15,000 employees, and you have 120 development studios who could make something, and that doesn't prevent it from being sold to somebody else, but it does allow Embracer to cut deals and be more involved in the ecosystem. So like Pong's example, that was a perfect example. They could simply get somebody on the phone, hey, we got such and such game. We heard you needed such and such game. We have several types of those games. What do you need? And then keeping the industry healthy and keeping the competition alive. Because again, when you look at this deal, and again, to touch on what Fahim was saying, why he was kind of like a little worried, why we at Pong say, hey, the FTC can look at Microsoft all they want, but Microsoft having 30 to 40 studios is nothing when you look at Embracer, who has 120 studios, right?
So the number of studios doesn't matter when it comes to that stuff either. And people conflate that all the time, because I've seen that pie chart still going around. Look, Monopoly, FTC, DOJ comes down to your control and power over the industry. Right. That's what it comes down to. Embracer Group, for having as much as they have nowhere near the power to dictate the market of the games industry that a Microsoft, that a Sony, that a Nintendo does. Not even influence close. It though. Yeah, they can influence it in certain minor ways, but not to the degree that a Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo did. Think about it. If they all had a conversation and said, tomorrow we're raising all of our prices on all of our hardware to $600, right? They could do that. They could influence the industry, right? And that would be illegal, right? Whereas if Embracer, if Lars shows up and he's like, hey guys, we're going to start charging $90 per game, he probably wouldn't influence the industry to do that. Everybody would look at him like he was crazy.
He'd probably crash and burn a little. Yeah, he'd be shooting himself in the foot. Like nobody would want to cut a deal with him at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So, Steel, great breakdown as far as kind of giving some more background to and information on it. Embracer Group as a whole, again, yes, things could go sideways very quickly. Okay. We will have to see. And I said this from the beginning, way back when we first started talking about Embracer, I said the real test of Lars and his team will come when they invest a lot of money into one of those AAA games and it flops, because it's going to happen. Yeah. And then we'll have to see how they handle the studio. How they adjust. Yeah. Right. And because I said that's the biggest risk, is they become an EA, where if there is a flop, they just fold up the studio. Right. And they fold, they disperse the devs to their different, to another studio or to multiple studios. Right. If they start folding up dev shops, that's when you have to be concerned, right? At the end of the day. But that'll be like, for me, that's the litmus test when that happens, when they have their first big failure. How do they handle it? Is it cool? We understand this is a risk from the beginning. We're good. Still have all the confidence in the world in these devs. We're going to let them continue to do what they do. No big deal, and move on. Or is it nope, investors are calling. We need to close this down. We just can't do this. That's what we'll see. But I think outside of that, right now, with the way the industry is going, this is a great spot for a lot of devs to be in, to be underneath the Embracer umbrella. And I think there's nothing but good things coming. I think they're going to grow a lot of these teams, and we're going to see some of the best work out of these teams that we ever have. And that's what excites me. So I can't wait.
Yeah, no, 100%. From there, I mean, where you want to take the conversation, man? What you feeling? What do you think would be interesting to talk to next? As I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. If you also haven't, share us out and run into your next room and tell your mom about us, tell your kids about us. Let them know that Living Splitscreen is live. We talking about everything that's going on with the industry, and we just got done talking about Embracer's reign into this industry currently, and them constantly swooping some things up. But Pong, man, where do you think we should lead the people to next, man?
Let's get into Sony's PC Launcher and Death Stranding. Let's do that, brother. Let's do that. Let's get down to business. The big news of the week for some people.
Okay, break it down from what's going on with this whole Death Stranding and this PC PlayStation things that are going on, because this wasn't supposed to be happening. This was a fluke, Pong. This is something that people said it was never going to happen. Sony will always have their own ecosystem. They don't have to do these things.
Okay, well, let's start with the PC launcher then, Steel. And again, I'm gonna lean on you here because you're the PC guy. I'm not. I know the basics, obviously, being around enough of you that do play on PC and playing on PC back in the day. I have a general knowledge of this, but came out through some code sourcing that some people did some digging, and they found some pretty big gold nuggets, especially within the Spider-Man PC release that Sony is getting ready. And then obviously we got official word from Sony as well, but that's how it started, that there was some, PC launcher code within Spider-Man, that it was showing up that this could be happening, that Sony was going to have their own storefront at this point for PC. And then, of course, Sony did make the announcement and put out that they were officially going to have a PC launcher in a storefront. And this all makes sense to me, Steel. Like, this is a natural evolution for Sony, right? I mean, what else did you expect to happen? Again, I know there's the clown show out here, just, puts on blinders all day, every day, and plugs their ears and doesn't want to see where Sony's going. But obviously, Sony loses a cut of every one of their first-party titles that goes to PC on Steam or Epic or whatever the case may be. They don't get to keep all the money, right? Nope. They have to. They take a hit. So, of course, Sony, being Sony and being obviously a business and having Jim Ryan, the ultimate businessman running it with the numbers, they want to have their own spot to offer their games and take the full amount of money back, right? That's just profit. It's pure profit at that point for them once they have their own storefront. And it also makes sense that they've been looking over at Xbox's side of things, Steel, and they understand that having continuity between all of your services is a priority nowadays. That if you're going to do this right, you've got to be able to have your community, your consumers, your customers feel like they can log in and be in the PlayStation ecosystem from anywhere. And that's what they're working towards, right? And that's how they're going to entice people to their storefront over a Steam, over an Epic, because we know, Steel, look, Microsoft has had their own storefront for how long, and it still ain't right. It still ain't good. I mean, they've been working on Game Pass for PC for how many years now, and they still have issues over on that side of things. Listen, this isn't easy, Steel. So it's not going to be like Sony snaps their fingers and jumps in and they're competing with Steam and everybody's just going to flock to Sony's store. Look, PC gamers, this is a whole new realm for Sony. Okay. This is not like console owners. Okay. PC gamers are even more set in their ways. Steam has been dominant for so long and has set the standard for so long.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part, that anybody look at Epic has to give away free games all the time just to get people to come to their store, right? So
yeah.
for a lot.
Yeah.
So Sony's not gonna jump in with a PC launcher storefront and all of a sudden say, hey, we're gonna keep everything exclusive to our storefront. They're not gonna do that. They're still gonna put their games on Steam, Epic, and everywhere they can. But at the end of the day, they're going to entice people. They could, but it would be a bad move, I think, on their part. They're going to entice people by having you log into your PSN login, having it connected to the PlayStation Network, getting trophies attached to the PC games, because there's a lot of people out there, obviously, same with achievements, that's what they double dip for. And then a big thing, Steel, is they're going to have to introduce cross-buy, which they've been missing, right? So if you buy a game on PC, that you get that game for your console as well. That's something that Xbox has set the standard with. Sony's going to have to do that. So they're going to have to do something to entice customers to use this launcher. But I think this is the right move for them at the end of the day. They have to start getting these things that we just take as the norm because so many other people have done it right. They're going to have their own version of that now that Jim Ryan is stating, hey, consoles aren't good enough for us. We got to go more. We got to go bigger. 2 billion, 3 billion people who want a piece of that pie. You're going to really have to put in the work and effort to get it done. So the PC launcher is the next evolution for me. Steel, go ahead. You take over because you're the PC guy. What do you think about this?
For me personally, as I unbox my Iron Man hat,
you just got to do Iron Man hat live?
Yeah, it's got it live. No, because I got this Iron Man quick side tangent. I got this Iron Man statue that I have to build. I have to put it together, piece by piece. I get like a monthly shipment of it in or whatever from Fan Home. So shout out to them. But so I'm building this big ass Iron Man. So on a month-to-month basis, they just send me stuff, man. So they'll send me a shirt. The last shirt that they sent me was piss poor. So there's that. I need to write a message about that. But yeah, so I get like comics and other little stuff, and they sent me a hat.
Nice,
man. So that's pretty dope.
Nice.
I'm actually gonna rock this. But anyway, as far as just to get me back on track, Pong, lead me back to victory real quick.
Yeah, PC launcher on Sony. I think it's the next evolution, obviously, but they're going to have to entice people to come over to it. So they're going to have to get integration. Cross-buy is going to become a must. Right now, it's not available on PlayStation. So that kind of stuff. But from your standpoint, since you do game on PC, because obviously you use Steam, you've used Epic, you're everywhere, GOG, GOG.
Whatever.
You've done it all. What does Sony have to do here, Steel, to really make this work? Or what do they have to focus on out the gate from your standpoint to make this actually viable for them to enter this space that is dominated by a few players?
Not make PC games $70, that's for sure. I agree with Sean on that. I mean, again, the PC market is definitely could definitely be really fickle. Again, you want to see a fan base that's really all over the place. PC is definitely going to be one of the branching points for that, for sure. For me, do I think it's like them making a PC launcher? I mean, of course, it only makes sense. And no, is it not have to necessarily compete with anything else? PlayStation does have the ability to say that, hey, you got to come to our launcher to play our games. That would be very Sony-like of them. Now, are they bold enough to do that in a space that they haven't necessarily proven themselves in, as far as, yeah, you got the games and everything, but can you create a good launcher? And like you use Xbox as a good reference point, as far as the Microsoft store goes, especially with Sony being behind a bit on, well, I say a bit, but quite a bit as far as like the service side things, that could be extremely difficult for them. So yeah, I would have to agree that, yeah, they would have to keep things on Steam. They'd have to keep things on the Epic Store. They have to keep things on a wide gamut of different things, just so people can have access, and also just to appeal to their audience. But just like Xbox, for me, if I can play, because right now my main market front that I'm in is the Xbox, and Microsoft Store, and then Steam. I do have quite a Steam library and everything, and I enjoy my Steam library. I enjoy Steam because it works effortlessly. It's not about the how my profile or anything like that. It's just the fact that I have a library of games there. I can click on a game, it boots it up, and I'm good to go. It keeps everything, it keeps track of everything. I'm not a huge dude about achievements and trophies and points and all that kind. I play games as I get them, the difficulty that I want to play them on. I'm not about to look at my achievement list and see what I need to do to complete certain things. Like, I can care less about that. But what makes Steam so great on PC is that Steam was very quick to jump on what they saw work from Xbox, for an example, right? Where they instantly implemented a thing that could keep track of your achievements within a game, which automatically keeps people's attention and makes you feel like you've invested into something that you don't want to pull away from, because there's something keeping track of it, right? You don't have to go to an external website like xboxtracker.com or whatever to see how much playtime you've had. You can go to one place, pull up one app, and it has all that information there, as you can do with Xbox, as you can do with PlayStation. And it's not as great as it is with Xbox and things like that. It's not as community focused as it is with Xbox and Steam. But as they get that built out, I don't see why they wouldn't want to do their own launcher. And I don't think it's necessarily a negative. But I also don't think that I don't think that they necessarily need it. I almost kind of feel like it's almost a waste of resources at this point. Outside of, unless you're planning on doing things very differently from going into the next like 10 years. I mean, if the PlayStation console is going to start getting outmoded, is going to start going out the way to the dodo, going to start becoming extinct, then I can understand why you want to put more of a focus on your PC launcher. Or if you pick up very quickly on the server side of things, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like y'all saw in the PlayStation 4 generation, where what they did with avatars was leagues beyond anything Xbox had to offer at that time. They made it feel more alive, right, Pong? I mean, you had whole economies, and you had like a full rendered avatar, looked like a person actually. It wasn't just some bobblehead Wii character. You had a house and people could come chill, and it seemed like its own thing, right? Kind of like what you get out of your 2Ks or your Maddens when you get in those story modes. They got you skating around, you got a house. Like PlayStation had something like that, but they never took it that next step and kind of like iterated on it, right? Am I like talking out of line on that? Because I felt like, at least to my understanding, what I knew of it, and again, this is somebody who's ignorant of that ecosystem, because I wasn't like readily involved outside of just playing a few games here and there. But I thought there was a lot of people who were really invested in that community side of it. We're spending time in it. People are moving around. People would meet up through it. And I feel like it just went away. Yeah,
it did.
So it's
much like the Xbox avatars.
Yeah,
right? They went away too. I mean, they're still there, but they don't
PlayStation
put
Home.
an emphasis on it. Yeah, PlayStation Home. Yeah, PlayStation Home. But no, a lot of people spent a lot of time in PlayStation Home. There were some cool aspects to it. I've seen people ask for it to come back. I mean, it's still around, like in people's heads. They had an opportunity, but again, does those virtual spaces make you any money at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Or is it just, again, it's great for the community, and sometimes you have to invest in that community stuff. Right. But as we've seen, even from Xbox's side, as community based as they are, look, they've all but abandoned achievements. Like, achievements should have been updated long ago. And we've heard Jez and Rand talk about this on the Xbox 2. Shout out to one of the best podcasts out there with those two. But they've talked about this multiple times, that there was plans, that they had those achievements as a priority, but every time something else comes up, that achievements just get bumped down the list, right? And we've seen avatars become less and less important. Back in the day, I still think the avatar thing is cool. I still think it has potential. I liked getting as playing a game and getting a free t-shirt for my avatar. Like I used to do that. I used to play dress up with my avatar, right? So I still think there's potential there. But what I'm saying is community focused activities like that, as far as big business go, are very easily moved down the list of priorities because of the resources, because of the time involved, because it's not going to bring you a whole lot of revenue. Unfortunately, again, at the end of the day, this is still a business. So those things just kind of disappear and go by the wayside still, and they just move on. So,
yeah, I mean, that could be very well possible, but there's also another avenue that if they would have doubled down on it, possibly that in this day and era of loot boxes and microtransactions, that they could have had the next Magic, right? And there could be something said about that. Hey, they gave up on it and didn't see the vision in it. So it's like,
and I could see them bringing it back, Steel, for VR.
Yeah,
like having that VR metaverse kind of
that could be something that they sell on.
And having mini games in there that you can sit down and play with your friends in VR. That's the kind of stuff I could see in the future, them going back to like that and having this whole space where you show up with your avatar and you can get dressed up in Sony gear, whatever the case may be. And you got all those little microtransactions and like, you know, let's say you guys, you know, buy a card game or whatever, you play, you know, spades or war or whatever the case may be. And you sit down in virtual reality with VR2, you know, with a VR2 headset. So I definitely think that's something they could revisit down the road for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
in a different way.
That could definitely be a selling point for them down the road. But when stuff like that happens, it's kind of, and with especially a lot going on the PC side of things, I just want, again, we got an example. I think Spider-Man is Nix's actual first game that they have ported to PC from start to finish. If I'm not mistaken, I know they've had hands in others, but I think this is the first one that they've done from start to finish. And this is actually the first one that I've actually personally realized. If you want to kind of compare Bluepoint, kind of compare their own studios, Bluepoint to Nix's, where I didn't see many issues from this. So it's like, well, I was going to bring up the point that I want them to
You're talking about Sony games, right?
The Sony
party title. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say because they built their whole career on doing
that. Not porting games, but Sony games wise. Yeah. Just talking about their service side of things, what I was going to bring up is that, I want PlayStation to make sure that they can port their games properly before they worry about anything else. And with Spider-Man, especially with Nix's, I think this is where Nix's is really going to come into clutch at, because if they can port games as well as they have with Spider-Man, their whole marketing strategy is going to change very rapidly, because at this point, there's no reason why you shouldn't. Like at all. And I don't know. Again, like somebody brought, I think it was Fahim that brought, Live Supremacy brought it up. He said, maybe Sony investment is for Epic to help with a PlayStation PC launcher. That could be very well the case. I mean, Sony could double up and sell their games directly through the Epic launcher. It does make sense for Sony to have their own PC launcher or whatever, or at least to have something to where you can go pick up more PlayStation games and be a really central market and only have their games there. I personally think it's kind of pointless at this point. And same thing with Xbox until Xbox kind of proves more on their side of things. Kay Asante has brought this up too, but I brought it up here on the show to where I shouldn't have to go to the Xbox app and then to go to the Ubisoft app to then download a game and every time that I want to play that game, because Kay Asante brought up the point that I didn't bring up for whichever reason, that me playing Ghost Recon Wildlands through the Xbox Game Pass PC launcher, because I have to play it through Ubisoft, I'm not getting the achievements for that. So if I was somebody who cared about achievements and really took that to heart, I'd be like, damn, man, where's the connection? It's pointless. This is pointless for me to play the game because I'm only getting it through my Ubisoft store. So it kind of is like, why do I need the Ubisoft store? Why don't we kind of centralize these things down? Keep it, if we're going to do it, Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation then at that point. Get rid of Epic. Like, Epic is already tied into Xbox. Epic is already trying to tie it. PlayStation is investing in more into Epic. Like, the Epic store isn't the greatest. Like, invest in your own stores and just give us those. And everything else can go the way of the dodo. Like, I don't need anything else. Like, give me good storefronts. And that's why Steam is always going to be the one to go back to, because it's the one that gives you the least amount of problems. So it's like, do I think that they need it? No. I think there's a better way to do everything. But again, if anything, I do definitely think it more so falls along the lines that, of course, Sony is going to quadruple down on bringing their games to PC, and you would be a wild person to think that it's not coming sooner than later. And I'm going to tell you, a lot sooner than later. Like, I would anticipate Ragnarok's PC release date to come out very quickly behind the release of Ragnarok. Because, again,
money.
Why not?
It's money in the hand.
Second version of the game.
You have to capitalize on the hype surrounding new game releases. That's a big part of it. The FOMO factor. Yes, you can still get a lot of back end stuff even years down the road. We've seen that with other games as well, coming directly from Sony, like Horizon Forbidden West and stuff, Zero Dawn. It can still sell very well, but there's nothing like having that initial launch period. And I think that you're right on, Steel. I think that as Nixus gets more comfortable, as they get caught up on things, that they will start cutting down the time frame and eventually get to the point where it launches on PC day and date. I just think it makes too much sense from a money standpoint. It's recovering. Again, as you pointed out many times in the show, Steel, it's great to say that a game has sold 20 million.
Yeah.
But if it takes 5 years to get there, at the end of the day, when you could have sold 12, 15 out
in the,
the
first
gate
in the first year,
because you put it on day and date on PC, listen, what's worth more? That money in the hand is worth a whole lot more than waiting on it.
Especially up front.
Yeah, especially up front. Then I think Sony understands that. Jim definitely understands that. So that's why I agree with you. I think it's coming sooner than later as well. And the PC launcher is a big part of that. As soon as this is ready to rock and roll and they know they can drop their games and have a place where people can buy them, where they take 100% of the money, I think that'll make them much more comfortable with doing that. And I think that's why they're pushing this out right now. And it's going to be here. So you are absolutely correct about that. And then on that, let's piggyback off of that, Steel, too. Continue with the PC talk here with Death Stranding, brother.
We let into it a little bit.
Man. And this feeds right into what we were just talking about with Sony.
Right.
Because Death Stranding represents a time before they had a Nixus.
Yes.
And why they went out and bought a Nixus, because they want to control their first party titles. So of course we had this week, PC Game Pass did a little teaser. They thought they were going to be sly. And like I said on PM to PM, look, if you think that you're going to throw out a hint to gamers and to this community, and you say, ooh, that's pretty good, it's probably going to take them a while to figure this one out, you should probably scrap it and try to get something more difficult, because it don't take people long. It literally took minutes for somebody to get the hint. So PC Game Pass, for anybody who doesn't know the story this week, they updated their avatar picture to show an environment, a nice green environment with an overcast sky and a rock. And they thought they were being really slick.
I knew what it was.
Yeah, it literally took minutes before somebody had found the exact scene in the game, the exact spot, the exact rock, and post a side-by-side picture. And then, of course, Tom Warren and others jumped on right away. Clobriel all put out what they thought it was. And, of course, it was Death Stranding coming to Xbox PC Game Pass, of all things, Steel. And why this all ties in is because for people who were scratching their heads, yes, Death Stranding is an IP that is owned wholly by Sony. And of course, that would never show up on Xbox in any form as of right now if they had control, but they don't. Why don't they have control? Because Death Stranding PC version was published by 505 Games. So obviously the assumption is, and I will say that we don't know the details behind the scenes. We don't know the contracts. We don't know any of this stuff. In fact, shout out to Lord Sovereign, who I was on with last night over on the Doomslayer Den, and shout out to all ILP, obviously, COG, King, Sav, and Attic, all love and respect. But Sav actually thinks that this was a Sony decision, that Sony did have to okay this. And he thinks that this is just a part of business, that, hey, we're going to put this game, much like we saw the success of MLB going over to Game Pass,
right?
That we were going to, not put it on the consoles, but they would be willing to put it on PC Game Pass. I disagreed. I pushed back against them. I said, no way. Sony is not ready to start embracing the third-party publisher. Okay, they're not. From my standpoint, my opinion is there's no way they okayed this. Did they know about it? Of course, it's their IP. But I think that the contracts, because 505 published it with Kojima, I think that 505 and Kojima, and maybe even Kojima himself, had the final say in this. And I think that this all came about because of the Kojima partnership with Xbox. I think this might have been included in those talks to bring Death Stranding to Xbox PC Game Pass. And so I think that's how this went about. But again, I respect all opinions. Maybe Sony said, what's the difference at this point? Let's put it over there. It's not going to console. It's still a console exclusive. PC, who cares? Maybe that happened. I still think it's the other thing. But the fact is that 505 published the PC side of things. This was before Sony had a PC developer like Nixxes to be able to port their first party games over. That's why they went out and got Nixxes, because they knew this was coming. They knew that Spider-Man, God of War, Ragnarok, they were going to want to put these games on PC. They needed their own company so that they were in control of the destiny. Yep. And hey, there we are now. But Death Stranding, PC Game Pass Steel. Again, I'm not in the camp that says, oh, it's coming to console event. It's not coming to console. Okay. They're going to hold on to this. But PC Game Pass nonetheless gets it day one. Steel. This game is older now. It has its detractors. It's not the director's cut. Anybody wondering about that? This is just going to be the original version, not the director's cut. That's not available on PC Game Pass. What are your feelings on this, Steel, as a PC gamer? As again, whether you're a fan of Kojima, whether you care about Death Stranding or not, kind of interesting that after all this time, Kojima's game shows up over here on PC Game Pass. What do you think?
I mean, I think it ties in with Kojima working with Xbox currently right now, man. This could have been part of it. I'm pretty sure they had conversation, and that could have been part of the original meeting that they had. Hey, Kojima, what do you think? We got this whole PC thing going on. I know you want to talk about cloud, and yeah, we can definitely work on that. But right now, what's that deal like that you got with 505? Oh, we know that shit. We can't bring it to to the Xbox. You got a certain deal with Sony and everything else like that. Or maybe you are. Who knows? I don't. Again, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to come to the console necessarily either. Although there are some things to say that, hey, it come to PC Game Pass. Why wouldn't it come to Xbox Game Pass? I mean, it's all built on the same thing. PlayStation and Xbox are pretty much the same kind of hardware, so there's nothing to prevent it from that. It's all deals behind the scenes. It's not nothing to do with the power of the game. Nothing like that. It's all deals. So, real quick, Fuzzy says, I guess the key question: can you buy it in the Microsoft Store? That is going to be an interesting question. Right now, with the way that PC Game Pass works, no, that's not the way that games work. You have to get it through the Xbox launcher, through the PC launcher, the Xbox Game Pass PC launcher, and it only works that way, right? At least from my experience. And now I don't open the Microsoft Store to boot the game or whatever else the case might be. I know it all kind of ties into each other. But it is going to be very interesting. Typically, games that are on Game Pass, you are able to buy. So that could be very well possible. But that doesn't mean that it has to come to Xbox, though, with them doing that. This is a very funny deal because it still has it's going to have the Xbox name behind it still. I mean, you can say PC Game Pass, but that's still PC Game Pass exists because of Xbox. So either way, you're still getting that marketing across. And when PC gamers start going across and they're talking to other people and they got their Xbox app open, it doesn't say PC Game Pass, it says Xbox when you open that up. If I open my PC Game Pass launcher, it is called Xbox. It is called the Xbox app. I open my Xbox app to play my PC games through the Xbox Game Pass PC launcher. It's all ties hand in hand with each other. So I think it's really mainly all marketing at this point, and a way for Microsoft to kind of pull away some of that mind share, because Death Stranding, whether you like it or not, it's not a game for me. It's not a game that I'm going to try out. Just because it's coming to PC Game Pass, I don't care about the game enough. I don't care. I don't want to download it. I'm not one of those people who's just like, oh yeah, I'll give it a run. No, I don't have that type of time just to give it a run. No, I don't, and I'm not going to spend an hour within the game because of how I play games. I get invested. I now want to play it, and it's not my type of thing. So, but it is obviously going to reach an audience of people that didn't have access to it before, which is the entire point, and doesn't do anything but kind of all those cries for woof that Sony was making before. Okay, if you're crying woof about what we're doing, then why do you have so loose control of the ball? You're supposed to be the top of the line all-star in the NBA, right? Why do you have no ball handling skills all of a sudden? Are you like the Monstars? You got your power sucked out of you all of a sudden? Why are we just doing whatever with your IPs now? Again, it kind of ties into what that big dog talk that Microsoft is kind of giving out to you now, because it's like now not only are we throwing around the money, and I know people say that, oh, Microsoft can only do these things because of money, and it's like, yo, like, are y'all forgetting that Microsoft still is the little dog as far as this whole conversation goes, though? They don't have that recognition. They have to make these moves to become any relevance. So it's like, when I see moves like this happen, it's like Microsoft again stepping up to that mound and saying, hey, we're just going to hit another home run because we can. Bring it. We brought MLB the show to Game Pass. That wasn't supposed to ever come. Sure, Death Stranding might not come to the box, but we can bring it to PC. Mm-hmm. It's still part of our Xbox ecosystem, though, right? I know you guys don't like to consider it the same. Oh, the consoles are separate from what's going on. No, there's a reason why they rebranded it. There's a reason why they're doing things the way that they're doing. It's all tied into Xbox. And it's all tied of getting people more invested in that ecosystem. Mindshare, back in the head type conversation. Like, it's back here at this point. Yeah, it's something small. It may not be. If you put the idea in somebody's mind that, hey, I have to open an Xbox app on my PC to play these games, when they talk to their friends about it, yeah, I played it through Xbox. Xbox has Death Stranding. Well, no, not Xbox specifically, but if you got a PC, you could play it here. And there is Spider-Man that's also there, and we're not on PC Game Pass specifically, but you have a PC, so you can play Spider-Man. Man, wow, all these Sony IPs, they're all available on PC too? Yeah, man, sure. I mean, maybe you can even play it through the cloud through PC Game Pass. Man, wouldn't that be interesting? Oh, well, guess what? It's an xCloud app. Again, just solidifying the marketing of it all. Could this be the turnaround for Xbox in their whole marketing strategy, where now they become the ones that are really churning they're churning the butter, right? That's that old school. It's like you got those Amish folks that are in a completely different area of the city from you, and they don't buy their butter from the store. They're churning it out in their backyards every day, and just churning. That's Microsoft, just churning. They're constantly churning. Oh man, we'll get there at some
Amish point. And Microsoft reference to the same.
Yeah. Microsoft and the Amish people in this situation, they're just churning the butter, man. They're just churning it. They're like,
we could probably safely say that's never happened.
No. It's never happened before. Leave it up to Steel. But neither way, it could be anybody churning the butter. If anybody has ever churned butter, I have. I know that may be a little bit older for some people, but they're point of that, they're taking their time. And now seemingly walking into a scenario to where there are so many plays being made where Sony is involved in the conversation that is also leading right back to Microsoft or Xbox. And I think the conversation around that tells a bigger story than a lot of people may be ready for. So with Death Stranding coming to PC, the PC Game Pass, it's another way for Xbox to get good marketing. It's another feather in the cap to tell people that, hey, this whole games coming to PC thing, it's not far off. And I know people getting up in arms and, oh, I tried to save the games from coming to PC. What's the point of getting a PlayStation anymore if they're all just going to be everywhere? And it's like, again, if more people playing games or your favorite game months later, years later, same day, gives you a reason to devalue your console, maybe you should look at gaming differently. Maybe you should look at what you value differently. Because again, it should realistically, I know that we used to look at games for first parties, games are here, but that's because of how the business was spoke to you. Now, why can't you just be happy with your ecosystem? Why can't you just continuously build off your ecosystem? Who's giving you value? Who's giving you more ways to play? And how are they going to continuously show you that they value you as a consumer within that ecosystem? And Xbox, Microsoft are seemingly doing that inadvertently, even with something like PC Game Pass, even if Death Stranding never comes to the console, because it doesn't have to. It's a mind share thing at this point. Sony didn't just become number 7 in brand loyalty just because they were only selling PlayStations. No, they sold Walkmans, and they sold radios, and they sold cassettes, and they sold, like, they did so many other things to get to where they are right now.
People forget how big they were.
Like,
people forget how dominant Sony was in the electronics industry.
Like,
bro, if you didn't own Sony at one point, it was like, what are you doing?
Like, yeah.
Like everything.
Like, why do you have an LG? Why do you have a Panasonic? Why do you have Philips? Like, Philips. Ew.
Philips. Yeah, why you Sony was it, man, for so many things. Again, that's why the drop off the cliff that they had in the electronics when they decided to start getting cheap with their products is what is shocking to me, because I grew up when I got my first Discman. Right. I had one of the original Discmen before there was skip protection or anything. Right. Like, if you moved it an inch, it was portable. But if you moved it an inch, man, that CD was skipping. I had that first Discman. Right. Sony was just on top of their game. Right. It's crazy to see the drop off at this point outside of their camera division. Camera division is still dominating, which is awesome. But electronics wise. Yeah. But you're right, Steel. They have built up this brand loyalty a lot. I just think overall, Death Stranding coming to Xbox. I'm sorry. Did you finish your point?
No, you're good. I
was like, wait, did Steel finish what he was saying?
I mean,
I jumped in there. But I think for this Death Stranding deal I think it makes most sense for Kojima and Xbox, because yes, we've had Kojima games on Xbox. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, dude, you guys have never had Kojima. Yes, we have. We had the Phantom Pain. We had Zone of Enders. We have had Kojima games. So, but let's be real. Kojima is associated still to this day with Sony because he had put out so many Metal Gear games over there that just happens naturally. So now that he's got a partnership with Xbox, and now he's going to have a brand new IP that's going to be cloud-based, it makes sense to start getting the idea of Kojima on Xbox back into the mind share again. And I think that it's not just us here because we know everything that's going on because we pay attention. It's more for the casual consumers as well, the PC gamers out there who maybe stayed away from Death Stranding because of all the negative talk around it. Now that it's in PC Game Pass, again, no risk. People are going to download it, and there's going to be a portion of those people, whether it's 5%, whether it's 10%, whether it's 25% of those people that download Death Stranding that fall in love with it, that actually say, God, I wish I wouldn't have listened to all those people. But their first experience with that game is going to be through Xbox, like you said. We can talk about it being separate because it's PC. Like you said, Steel, you're still logging into Xbox to access PC Game Pass. So that ecosystem then gets a boost from that as people recognize, hey, I got Death Stranding through Xbox. So when Kojima's new game starts getting pushed through the cloud and all that kind of stuff, and it's going to be this brand new experience that nobody's ever had before, we know how Kojima's going to advertise this. Right? This thing's going to be the craziest thing in the world. People are already going to have that association again with Kojima being on Xbox. And it's not going to be that big a thing. So people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I played Death Stranding. Man, what's this game? This is going to be really cool. So I think it makes a lot of sense from his standpoint to do this and to have this happen overall. And at the end of the day, I'll throw this out there as my own crystal ball, just speculation town, as we like to get into. Steel, you kind of hinted at it. The ultimate chess move, and I put this in our DMs when this all happened this week too. The ultimate chess move is, and we heard that keyboard and mouse support is coming.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know when, I don't know how close we are, but the ultimate checkmate move here is when Phil comes out and Jason Ronald comes out and they announce that we can now stream PC Game Pass through our consoles. That's the ultimate chess move.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, Death Stranding is available on console, and all the other games out there that are on PC Game Pass that we haven't had access to on console are available. And I think that that's the ultimate move, because we know for a fact, Steel, that Microsoft and Xbox, their philosophy, their priority in all of this is that you get to play your games no matter where you bought them, anywhere that you are. And I think that they're slowly but surely merging all of these storefronts, these ecosystems. They're trying to get it to a point where no matter where you're logging in, phone, console, TV, PC, you have access to your full library right there. And I think that that's the ultimate goal for Xbox. So that's going to be the checkmate move for me, is when that happens. And I think we're getting closer. So it's going to be a fun ride. Again, I said, we've been talking about since the generation started, Steel. By the end of this generation, the landscape's going to be totally different than how we started. Totally different. We may not even recognize the landscape by when it's all said and done 5, 6, 7 years from now, what this is all going to amount to. But you can see these little moves, Steel, these little moves. Microsoft is actively hunting loopholes. They're actively looking to place a crowbar in these closed off systems, these closed off doors, wherever they can. And it's little things like this that you just go, yep. Absolutely. That was planned. That was something they knew they could get done. And so they went for it. And I think that that's what's going to change the way that we think about gaming, the way that we access gaming, the way that we all enjoy our content, slowly but surely. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be a total different landscape at the end of this generation, but I think it may not be recognizable from where we started at, coming off the PS4 and Xbox One generation. It's going to be different, man. So this stuff is exciting to me. I love to see this happen. And I'm happy for all the PC gamers out there who, again, may have just held off because there was so much negativity around Death Stranding. Walking simulator, UPS delivery simulator, pizza guy delivery simulator, all that nonsense that was out there. At the end of the day, I have not touched Death Stranding yet, but I will tell you this, and I've said it many, many times. Every time I watch a video of Death Stranding, it is one of the most gorgeous looking games I have ever seen out there. It really, really is. The environments, the character models, bro, that's what Kojima does. It's incredible. That's why I'm excited for his cloud game coming to Xbox, no matter what it is, because I know he's going to push the limits of what the tech can do and give us something different. And Death Stranding was an experiment by Kojima. People forget that. Kojima wasn't looking to make some mass hit type game. Of course, he would love to see 100 million people playing his game. Of course he would. But at the end of the day, Kojima experiments with his games, and this was about connecting people together, right? That was what this whole game was about, the connectivity of people, having a social aspect to a game, whether you were all online together or not, coming back to your game and having somebody having built a bridge or building a zip line somewhere that was inaccessible to you before, now all of a sudden was opened up because somebody else took the time in their game to do that in this shared world experience, which again, MMOs do that a lot, but Kojima was trying it on a different level. So again, what he's going to bring to this cloud game, whatever his idea was, because this is his baby, this is something he's talked about for years and years. Again, you can go back to 2018. There's an interview with him where he talks about this idea that he's had in his head for this cloud gaming shared experience that can't be had anywhere else because the cloud technology gives him the ability to do so. Whatever this turns out to be, even if it's another experiment that doesn't have mass appeal, I know it's going to be interesting at the end of the day. That's why I'm excited for Kojima.
Yeah, and that's why I don't necessarily mind it. I think it's all going to work out in the end as it should. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see how things are going to continue to progress forward, especially with PlayStation seemingly changing their strategies for what we can tell. It's going to be really interesting going into the fall, what else they get lined up, because honestly, there's not much else releasing on that side of things. Other outside of second and third party. Of course, you can say that about Xbox, you can say that about Nintendo. But PlayStation at least has God of War still releasing this year. So that is going to be a heavy hitter. A lot of people are going to be super into that. And I can't wait to get some more information. Who knows? Gamescom is definitely going to be an exciting time. I do have to also agree with that. Fun speculation. I want to see what additional information we get. Let's see. Let's touch on something small really quickly. Again, year delays. I know we got some DMs about this and everything. Yeah. Some people are saying that 2022 is going to go down as the worst year ever, as far as gaming, as because of delays and everything else. And it's like, no, man. It's like, I can't agree with that. And I can understand like some of the doom and gloom because there was a lot of potential for this year. But let's be honest with each other. We said last year that 2022 was going to end up being dead as far as like a lot of games were going to, that we had heard of. And then as we got into the year, we've gotten a bunch of different releases. There were some things that we were hyped for, like Starfield. That getting pushed out was definitely a heavy hitter. That was something that I did have some excitement for, and I still do have some excitement for. And I want to see what more they have to offer as far as their game goes. So, I mean, so that was a hit. But there has been a lot of different games that have come out this year that have hit hard, that are second and third party or just indie games, and have really made their mark. And I just can't run with the statement that I feel like it was dead or it's depressing or no. It's just, if you're a first party kind of guy or girl or whatever the case, then yeah, maybe there wasn't a lot for you there. But for me, there's definitely been games to play across the board, no matter how you looked at, no matter what the budget was on those games. There's been plenty to play. Jump in, check it out. Check out some of these sales that have been going on this year, man. They have been buku crazy as far as like the type of deals that have been getting thrown out there. And then also the type of games that have been coming out, especially if we move further into the fall, I think it's going to be good. Yeah, there's always been something to play. I got to agree with you on that. Dank Nate, he said, I've been enjoying this year. I've always had something to play. And The Ascent has DLC that's come out. That could be something else that we go in and play and have a good time with. Like me and Pong, we are main proponents for The Descent. An excellent game. Thunder Force Shock says 2022 was a worse year for console gamers, not on PC. I guess I got to.
It's all perspective. It's all perspective.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, Microsoft. If you're just going to focus on Microsoft first party, yeah, one of the worst years. Like, again, there's no way around it from a first party Microsoft standpoint. One of the worst years. Okay. Yeah. But listen, you're talking to a dude who's been around through the driest of dry video game years, right? Like, listen, back in the day, we were lucky to get like a handful of really big games, right? We were lucky to get a handful, and that was across all consoles, right? So I've been through the driest of dry years. As a gamer, as a type of gamer I am, who plays everything, no way. 2022 is not anywhere as close. We have so much to play, And again, the indie scene blowing up like it has, just it's nonstop what we get. And again, if you are one of those gamers, like Steel said, that only plays AAA home runs, well, yeah, I can see your perspective and I understand it. I do feel, however, that I do feel that we, the type of gamers Steel and I are, we play much more than just AAA home runs out. Are much bigger group than just the AAA players. I'm not talking about the Madden Call of Duty crowd. Okay. That's a whole nother category unto itself, right? That's a casual category. I'm just talking about gamers in general. I think there's a bigger group of us that every day log in, especially if you have Game Pass, you can find something to play that you've never played before, or you have already about 10, 15, 20 games that you've tried or started that you have to still get back to. And I think that's the way it's gone. Look, Steel, we've got what, 50, 60 hours in Dying Light 2. We still haven't finished that game to go back to. Now that's got DLC that's going to be announced at Gamescom. Yeah. So we've got games, man. We've got more games than we know what to do with. 2023, look, the complaints, and Shizno, shout out to you, brother. Again, you and I are on the same wavelength in a lot of areas. And Shizno said it in the chat the other night. He said, look, 2023, gamers are going to complain about too many games. Yeah, and yes, that's probably going to happen.
That's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, no, that's exactly what's going to happen. Hyperfan Gaming says, play League of Legends, free on PC. Oh, God.
Shout out to Hyperfang. What's going on, brother? Good to see you here.
League of Legends is a good game for those who can get into MOBAs. Now, MOBAs frustrate a lot of people, but there's also those same amount of people, if not 50% more, who actually love it and enjoy it. Jacob Novik says 2 terabyte 4K and maybe even 8K. I imagine an ultimate handheld, xCloud to install every sort of Game Pass, every free game via xCloud like Fortnite, everything Xbox has on a go, the Go system, exactly everything.
So he's talking about Xbox handheld again. Yeah, it's a big topic of conversation. I think there's 2 ways they can go. They can partner with everybody like we've seen them already start doing, and just let everybody else do all the R&D, do all the research, and just have Game Pass available on Steam Deck, have Game Pass available on whatever other third-party handhelds come out, and just go that route. Would it make sense from my standpoint that eventually Xbox does do an actual licensed handheld for themselves and really optimizes it as long as it's native hardware? Yes, I'm not in the group that thinks that there should be a streaming only handheld. I think it has to be native hardware and it has to be on par with the Series S for it to make sense. And that's going to take some years before they can get it shrunk down to that size. But I think it is possible before the end of this generation, Xbox does jump back into the handheld, or jumps into the handhelds for the first time with their own system that is optimized to play, Game Pass games and Xbox games. I think that is something that's a possibility. So I would be down for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Then Fahim also says, I just started Elder Scrolls Online. So far, I like it. Yeah, amazing. Man. There's nothing like that fresh Elder Scrolls Online experience. I'm not going to lie. I think if I would have had a group of people that would have kept me on, I'd probably still.
But I will say this for Elder Scrolls community, the Elder Scrolls Online community is one of the best, Steel, because I played it solo. But man, did I get some help from some people, from randoms, complete randoms. They are some of the nicest people in Elder Scrolls Online. And again, the only reason why I still don't play it, again, I've got a couple, 300-400 hours into it over on the PS4.
That's why.
Is because Bethesda in 2022 still doesn't allow me to transfer my character to Xbox. And that's what sucks. Yeah, so that's the only reason why I've held off. But every time they release a new expansion, I go back and go, God dang it. And I was a premium member too, by the way. On ESO. I paid for probably almost 2 years of premium. It is well worth it if you are heavy into ESO. The benefits that you get, the free cash, the free store money that you get, along with the unlimited inventory, which is an absolute must if you're playing ESO hardcore. Bro, gotta have it. It's worth the what is it, $15? I think it is a month, something like that.
It was that. Yeah, it was something like
well worth it. I love ESO. It is a really, really awesome Elder Scrolls experience. Even as a single player, there are so many different missions to run. The world is so big. It is. Oh God, I love that.
There's so much. There's so much that goes on in that game. And again, that's really, that game is really that's kind of like my central point as far as those games go. Like that's my kind of expectation. A lot of the time, and not only that, but that's also why I want to see it kind of move forward from there, which is why I want to see if I get that same feeling from Starfield that I got when I played Elder Scrolls Online originally. Maybe not because it's just MMO, because that's what it wasn't about. But it was just the expansiveness, the character development. I know all the games kind of had that. But I felt like
that's their forte.
Elder Scrolls Online did it in such a way where it was just like I had both. I had elements of both. And maybe that's what
I expect. We're gonna get a Starfield MMO too, a Starfield Online. That game is set up perfectly. I mean, I can't imagine Steel, you and I traveling as space fucking pirates, just hijacking, bro.
We'd be going fucking crazy.
Oh, building a base, picking out a planet, building the base that we launch from. Oh my God.
Split screen planet.
That's right. I named it. I named it in whatchamacallit. So in No Man's Sky.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I got a whole living split screen star system named out there in No Man's Sky. If anybody comes across it,
that's so funny.
Which the chance of you coming across it, less than a needle in a haystack, let me tell you. But
it's there. Keep it in mind. Keep it in mind.
It is there. But yeah, and for anybody else curious, Elder Scrolls Online 2, if you pay for the premium, you get all the DLC, you get all the expansions for free.
Yes.
It's part of your premium package.
Yes.
So all you have to have is you can download the basic game from Game Pass and then just join the premium, and you have access to every piece of content that they put out as far as the expansions go, which is awesome.
Which is always super dope, especially as a new player, because maybe you don't want to fork over the extra money for it.
Right. You try it out, $15, get you everything. But you can see for yourself.
That's also how they get you. So
yeah, it is. It is.
Because once you do it, you'll be like, oh, I might as well just stay.
The in-game currency, they give you like $10 worth of in-game currency every month. Like it's like legit, because you want to buy new mounts in that game. You want to buy the new armor in that game, because they do a nice job with that.
But they do. Yeah, it's all looks really good. As I mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode today, since I do have an appointment here within the next hour or so. So I don't want to get too deep, but I didn't have much else on my list other than the conversation with PC Game Pass versus console Game Pass, which we kind of touched on earlier. I saw the conversations about that and people wanting to separate it out and not consider it part of each other, and whatever. I thought that was crazy. The other thing too was some of the conversations about QuakeCon, and we still not getting much information, if anything, about that, or a lot of the older games coming to PC versus them coming to console. And the questions are like, oh, why aren't they coming into console? What's going on with that? Like, they're missing so much potential as far as that goes. And honestly, it would definitely be beneficial to see a lot of those games come back, but because they were made on PC back in the day, I do expect for those games to be easier to port over to a console, but it's about whether they feel like it's going to be worth it or not to do that. And I don't know if it is necessarily, whether they got to put more money, more time, more effort into it to make sure that it's running clean, especially if there's an expectation that we might get a new Quake, as there's been rumors that are going around. I much would rather just have the new Quake rather than you giving me older games, because those games haven't aged very well as far as looks and the way they play and everything. Especially when you consider controller. I can imagine they haven't aged very well. But I am excited to see if there's ever going to be a new Quake that comes through. Although that's going to be very difficult, because unlike Doom, although Quake and Doom are very similar to each other, Quake is also much more sweaty than Doom has ever been. Quake was is like the epitome of you getting online, bro, shooting, and translating that over onto a controller.
But if anybody can do it, it's it. If anybody can do it, it's it.
It can do it.
And my point the other night when we talked about this, my point too, Steel, was with now, Quake was popular before there was anything esports.
Right.
Can you imagine if they get it right, what kind of sweaty competitions it could blow up in the esports world? Because you want to talk again, I don't even know if at my age anymore I can even play Quake, like legit. Like it's like one of those games, like you have to have the reflexes of a cat. And if they pull that off again and they bring it up to date and it's modern and it's on current gens, and along with PC, you could have a huge explosion in the esports world of one of the most highly competitive games that has ever been made before, because people just don't remember what Quake was like back in the day. Quake was stupid, like legit stupid. The things that people did in that game in a competitive setting was utterly ridiculous. And it was so tight. The controls were so spot on that if you got shot, there was no question. There was no question. It was on the other person was just that much better than you. Like there was no questions about cheating. There was no questions about anybody with controller versus keyboard. Look, it was just, hey, you got smoked because that person was a fraction of a second faster than you. That's all there was to it. Man, they could have a big game, a big resurgence of Quake if they can get it right, Steel. Like you said, Whether or not that translate nowadays, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they could do it, man, it'd be huge.
It would definitely, I mean, the name would definitely ring again with people like us.
They still have QuakeCon. They still have QuakeCon.
Yeah, of course. I don't think Quake resonates with the audience that they're trying to talk to now. That's the only thing about that. Yes, we're part of that conversation, but I just don't know if it appeals to that same audience. Because I mean, I don't know, man. Like if they brought Valorant to PC, to console, then it'd be kind of pointless for you to bring Quake, because there's other games that do something similar and already have an audience. And when you have so many, that was the other thing that Quake had as an advantage too earlier on. There weren't many games like it. There aren't many games that are still like it to this day. And it's going to come down to, how are you going to entice people to play this game again? Yeah, I don't know.
But like I said, if there's a studio that can do it, it's id. And I think that I would trust them. And I think that all the smoke is real. Again, this is funny. This is funny, Stu. I brought this up this week on multiple shows too. I'm starting to believe. Shout out to Everborn. Shout out to Everborn. Shout out to Everborn and his conspiracy. The dude, like, look, I love conspiracy. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Okay, so listen, in all different things. But Everborn's had this out there. And he's probably the lone man that's put this out there on his own mountain here. But ever since the Activision Blizzard deal, he believes that Microsoft has purposely been playing extremely low key. And I'm not just talking about like the news, like we all have talked about that they were going to be really low key when it came to news. Right. But his thinking goes as deep as Starfield, Redfall pushed until the Activision Blizzard deal can get done. He's in this thinking that they are not making any new announcements now, or very few new announcements, until the Activision Blizzard deal gets done, to play up the fact that they are in third place, technically speaking, that they are the underdogs here. As much as Sony has been trying to place themselves as the victims, Microsoft is trying to stay so low key that they're pushing off all these announcements. Look, we've been hearing about smoke from Quake for quite a while now, past year or so. I think it's real. It's been working on something. Okay. We know that. Yeah. It's not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, wondering what they're going to do. And Quake deserves a return. It does. It's an IP that does reserve another chance in current gen form. And so I think that is real. I think they've been working on a reboot for this. You know, we saw the Quake 1 remaster, which was, the remaster at the lowest definition of a remaster, come out last year to try to get some hype. There was some talk that we could see a Quake 2 remaster at QuakeCon this year, which didn't happen. I think it's real. I think they're going to try it. And I think that id is the team to do it. And I think, Steel, that they're on something here. But I think that Microsoft may be, my original thought here was that I'm starting to believe in Everborn's conspiracy, even though I rolled my eyes at him. And I admit that when he first said it, I was like, no way. I think they are still. I think they're holding back a lot of stuff right now just to not draw more attention to themselves about exactly how much they really have going on. Because we know that they have so much in the works. It's unbelievable when you start looking at the roadmap, but I really think that they're starting to stay quiet this year because of it. I really do.
And that's the other thing too, with them reviving Doom and Quake shared a lot of similarities. It's along with Unreal Tournament. Like, I would almost want rather an Unreal Tournament rather than a Quake, to me personally.
Quake has more draw, though. I think.
You think Quake has more draw than Unreal Tournament? You think so?
I do. I really think in this day and age,
I feel like it sounds right, but
Quake's name has more. When you say Quake,
more than Unreal Tournament. I can agree.
Because that's all I'm saying. I think from a marketing standpoint, Quake has much more of a namesake than Unreal does, right? So I can see your point, and I understand that Unreal, from a competitive standpoint, could be very impressive as well. But I just think that Quake overall, again, just has that namesake that could draw a certain crowd to it, that could kick off something where more and more people start jumping into it as they watch people play it, because it is still different, like you said, Steel.
And it's one of those IPs too that it's like, it literally was like the Call of Duty of that time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, And Quake definitely has the potential to be that again. And it's just, it literally is all about how they revived it. I know in the new Doom, they pulled out the multiplayer. This could be a way that they bring that action back where Doom doesn't have to do multiplayer. They can focus on, I mean, I know they're done with the story now, but Quake could be just that multiplayer proponent that they pulled out and could be that fast-paced, over the top, action-based first-person shooter that has that super competitive element to it that could be right back up there because it is also super different than any other first-person shooter. Like literally, you could have a Quake, Halo, Call of Duty, and they all play so differently from each other that they would be easily able to thrive and have their own audience, and also have especially in this day and age, have a blend of audiences that really probably touch on all three and kind of talk amongst all three of that same cloth, I would say. I think it has that potential. I'm so iffy on it, man, because I just don't know if people are willing to accept Quake again the way that they did originally, especially with how far it's been removed at this point.
Well, I think we're gonna find out no matter what, one way or the other.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And Jacob, to answer your question, yeah, Unreal Tournament was Epic,
yes.
who made it. That was what kind of put Cliff Bleszinski, yes, maker of Gears, on the map. He was a main part of that design, and that's where he got a lot of his Gears from as well. So, but yeah, it was Epic Games that did that. So. But again, we're going to find out because I think Quake is coming back no matter what. So, yeah, and Victor Click in the chat, he's a big Unreal guy. He said, "Unreal, please, gaming gods." Yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of people out there, but Quake would, god damn, man, it would be
interesting. I definitely want to see it come to the forefront, at least because I know it would be interesting.
Yeah.
With that though,
you got to get going, Steel.
I mean, I'm not in a super rush. I do want to be done within the next 25 minutes or so.
Okay.
Just so it give me plenty of time. But that's all I had on my list on my end personally. Paul, I mean, what else did you want to jump into?
Well, we can get a couple of smaller topics in here. Steel, let me ask you this: did you watch the Redfall developer interview? Okay, what did you come out of with Redfall? Because that's been a big topic this week. Because Mav obviously fell even more in love with Redfall from what the developers had to say. Arcane Austin, of course,
right?
That they did a nice job of even expanding more upon what we already knew about Redfall, to the degree that Mav's hype rose. Now, my hype's already been high. And like I said, nothing from this developers talk that they had at QuakeCon or in what they showed. They did show some new footage in there. Nothing really could have raised my hype outside of the fact that I learned how big this game is. I knew it was going to be big, but when they talked about dropping the entire space station from Prey into the gaming world of Redfall, and it wound up taking up just the farm in the outskirts of Redfall. It took up the farmland, which is one mission in Redfall in the outskirts. And remember, they got the inner city, and then they've got the suburbs, with the church and the farms on the outside. That's how the world's divided. That the entire space station of Prey took up just the farm, one mission from Redfall. Bro, that size blew my mind. I was like, okay, yes, this is going to be a big world. But what'd you think, brother? What'd you come away from? Because I know you've been kind of on the Redfall train for sure, but it's one of those games that, interested. But did you see anything more or hear anything more that really piqued your interest out of this one?
The first time that I watched it, I fell asleep. About towards the back end of it, I had about the last 5 minutes of it, I fell asleep. Personally, I found Redfall not to be that entertaining. I like the concept of it, and I like the vampires, and I like what they're trying to accomplish. But it is going to be one that I would need to see how it plays and how it feels in my hands. I'm not going to discredit the game and say that, I feel like it's going to be trash, or no, it looks like it's going to be a good time. But for me, it just, maybe it was the way that it was presented, and maybe I was just tired. It has been a rough week for me, but because I tried to watch it again and I just found myself not necessarily super interested. But I did write a Twitter post after I watched it originally, and then I fell asleep on it. I woke up the next day. I wrote a tweet. I was just like, man, I don't know if I'm as interested in Redfall as everybody else may be, or as hyped for it as anybody else is. And again, with a lot of things that they're saying are impressive. When you're saying that, hey, you know, once one piece of the map is equal to the entire game of Prey, and it's like, yeah, hell yeah, it's fucking impressive. But for me, it's always going to come down to gameplay. And for these games that are like, they're PvE focused, where, hey, you know, you can play this game by yourself or you can play it in co-op. I just have this feeling like it's going to be another one of those games where I get to the end of the game and then I don't play the game again. Okay. Or I get to the end and there's not much else other than me just getting more gear and replaying that same story again. Right. Now, again, and not to say there's anything necessarily wrong with that, because again, I had fucking a fantastic time with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but do I have the want to go back to it and play it again? No. Would I, if there's some DLC that drop? Yeah, I would. But it's kind of like, well, how long do I have to put the game down until that happens, right? And right now, I don't see anything coming from Wonderlands currently that would draw me back into it and be like, oh, let me add some DLC, let's jump into it. Fun Speculation says, shoot a vampire with a garden gnome, I'm down. And see, for me, that's just like, I don't know, that's not enough for me, like, personally. But again, not to take anything away from Arcane and not take anything away from Redfall, it's solidified to me. I need to see what this game is going to be like in my hands, because that could be a transformative experience. I get it in, I kill my first vampire, especially with the different levels of vampires and how they kind of gave that breakdown to where it's like you have these cultists, they're trying to become I like that concept. That's really dope. That's like Queen of the Damned type. You know, it gives me those feelings. Blade. It gives me those feelings of Supernatural. They touched on some of that too. It gives me some of those feelings, which is I'm super about, but you explaining it to me, it's not making me any more like, oh, now it may be different. Again, because I do believe they're going to have 4-player co-op in this too. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong in that. I do believe it is 4-player co-op, drop in, drop out.
Yes, they based it on a single player and first because they wanted the single player experience. That's what Arcane's known for, and then they also added on the multiplayer as well. So it is a single player game at heart, but the multiplayer is there. And yes, you can play as the same characters. Because I was just going to ask you,
that's dope too.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you still. For you, because I've been listening to you talk for a long time, so I understand your brain, you know, the way that you think about games, and I understand exactly what you're saying about the, hey, when I get done with this game, what's going to be for me? What's the difference between something like Redfall and a Gotham Knights that you're excited for? Because Gotham Knights is kind of set up the same way. You're going to be looting, you're going to be upgrading your characters, you're going to be doing different builds, that kind of stuff. What is there a difference between those two in your eyes, other than, hey, you really like the superhero genre, so Gotham Knights just appeals to you a little bit more? That's
literally the main difference. To be completely honest, that literally is the main difference, because I'll probably end up finding myself at the same point to where I'm with Gotham Knights. I've maxed out my character and I have a certain way that I play, and then I don't. Because I am also the guy, because I do like to play other games to where it's like I'll use Warframe as an example. For a long time, there was three frames that I would get, and then outside of those 3 frames, everything else was extra. So it was like I want to make sure that the build on these 3 are right. If I'm doing X content, I'm trying to think if there's other games there's better. Destiny is a better example. Destiny. A lot of people use all 3 classes. They play all 3 classes. I've always used all 3 classes. Since Destiny 1 until here recently in Destiny 2, I've only ever used 1 class. No matter what anybody else, oh, you can grind more efficiently if you have more. No, I like to play other games. I don't like to, this is not my life. And I've put 1,500 hours in Destiny, like using 1 character. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can only imagine how that would be if it was other characters, because I put that type of time and investment into it because I want my characters to play a certain way. In order for me to get around that and prevent things like that happening, I invest my time into 1 character in 1 specific way that I like to play. And then try to figure out. That's why I like when games give you multiple ways. That's what gets me excited about Gotham Knights, for an example, when they say, hey, there's not going to be just one way to play. Now, we'll see when the game actually comes out. There's always games that say that, oh, there's more than one way to play, and then there becomes a meta, and then nobody wants to play with you unless you're playing the meta way. Destiny's a prime example of that, where people do that all the time. They don't want to play with you unless you're playing the meta way, which can be completely boring and corny and everything else. But it can have that same syndrome. I'm not against my own biases, right? Where it's just like, well, hey, if it's something I personally like, that I'm going to be a little bit more catered to that, versus something like a Redfall, where it's just like, traditionally I haven't been into arcane games, but it's not to say that their gameplay loops aren't appealing to me. I can't say that their games are trash or they're not interesting, because they are, but it's like I'm constantly fighting that battle with myself, like, hey, was it worth my time? Gotham Knights, an example compared to Redfall, it's like I like Batman already, so it's like I like that I like that family, I like that storyline, how they can, the different ways they could take that, those gets my gears turning and everything, because I already have kind of like a bias towards kind of like heroes and villains and that whole fantasy, like that whole power fantasy and everything.
Right.
So there's that where it's like sense. With Tiny Tina, it's just like, yeah, it could be like it's kind of like the same thing. It's kind of the same thing with Warframe, right? Because it's like, at the end of the day, everybody's gonna get the same frames, and we're all grinding for the same thing. We're getting better equipment and all getting the same stuff at the end of it. But it's like how you play it, and it takes a while. It takes a long time to get to that kind of point where you'll never see those similarities. To where it's like with Redfall, it doesn't look like it's going to be that in depth, though. I don't want to speak on the depth without having played the game and seeing what it's going to actually end up giving me. Because again, when they say that one of their past games can fit into a section of this game, of course, that gets my gears turning, like, damn, okay, well, fuck. I mean, that previous game seemed kind of dense. So now you saying that this game is 6 times as dense. Okay, what are you giving me? And then how are you going to play on that aesthetic of vampires and everything, in the way the abilities kind of play off each other and allowing people to use the same classes. Another thing, like we ran into with Dying Light, to where the story progression doesn't carry over. That's the thing that bothers me. Like, it's just like
they're doing that in this too. I mean, they are doing that.
And I understand. I mean, it's, you base it off of your single player experience. Could be the same reason why Dying Light did it. Although Dying Light wasn't traditionally that way, that doesn't make sense. But that could be the same thing, where it was just like, hey, it was a single player experience. We treated it that way. That's why they're different. To me, it's just like, it takes away from it. It's just like, I'd like my progression to count with my buddy's progression, right? We pick up from the same place. If I want to move on, great. I would just, whenever he gets back on, I'll just pick up from wherever he left off. And I can kind of give them some expectation wherever we're playing together. Hey, be on the lookout for these things. Hey, I got this gun from over here. Like, there's just other elements to add on to that. So, yeah.
Oh, and that's cool. So that's kind of where I thought you were coming from too. Like I said, I've listened to you for long enough. I kind of get your mindset. For me, again, since I don't finish many games, like that is never a problem. Like if I finish a game, like we finished Tiny Tina's, I was happy, right? I was like, man, that was a blast experience and whatever else. But I go back to so few games. Like there's no Destinies for me or Warframes for me where again, Cyberpunk 280 hours, Skyrim probably 400 hours total, ESO 300, 400 hours, like those types of games. Like you, I'm even on another level as far as grazing goes. So I'm always looking for the next experience. So for me, it's like whatever. And Redfall being in Game Pass day one is a bonus. Like that's huge for me. Like, cause it's just going to be one more thing I don't have to budget in. Whatever I get out of Redfall, I'm going to be happy with no matter what at the end of the day. And just what they were talking about being able to, again, Arcane has a unique way of spinning their games. And that's why I was so excited for this, because we've seen so many looter shooters. We've seen so many co-op multiplayer games. Again, that's common nowadays, but Arcane has a different way of doing things. And the fact that they said I can stealth this entire game if I want to as a single player,
that's kind of dope.
That's kind of dope, right? And then the fact that they talked about the class builds, that for Arcane, because Arcane hasn't necessarily been known as a class builder because they haven't done a whole lot of multiplayer in the past. The fact that they talked about, hey, yeah, you might be playing the same character, but you can have totally two different builds, a lot like they showed off in Gotham Knights with the Red Hood gameplay the other day. That excites me as well, Steel. Knowing that if you and I decide to have the same character, that we could have two different play styles and that they have skill trees, weapons, specials that will give us a unique feel to each one of those characters. That's what's cool to me as well. So I'm happy for Arcane here. I think this is going to be big. I think this has a potential to be that mass hit. That Arcane they've been critically acclaimed. All their games score extremely well. And there's a rabid fan base of Arcane fans like myself that love their games, but they've never had that mass appeal success sales wise. And again, being in Game Pass, we're not going to be talking about sales, but I'm saying from an engagement standpoint, I think this could be their biggest game ever. And I really think they have a chance to grab the Left 4 Dead crowd that didn't get grabbed by Back 4 Blood. And I think Arcane could bring something different where people gravitate towards Redfall. And it really has a ton of success. So I'm excited for Redfall. I think it was a great showing for them, 100%.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh too.
Why?
Because I was wondering why the duck conversation was going in, and I should have known it was Mav's fat finger texting that set it off, because he was trying to text Quake and he texted Quack instead.
I was wondering. I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I didn't say Quack.
No, it was Mav. It was Mav. Shout out to Mav. We had a go of it in the chat earlier this week about Mav's texting abilities and his fat fingers. So,
okay. I was about to say, like, I was really sitting there over here thinking to myself, like, damn, did I say Quack? I really called Quake Quack?
No, it was Mav.
Okay, that makes sense. Damn, I was racking my mind about that. I was like, did me and Pong say Quack? Fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I know I need some more coffee, but damn.
Shout out to Splendiferous dropping in here with the codes. Thank you, Splen, man, brother.
Hey,
You're always dropping around here, man. Appreciate you.
Splendiferous dropped an Xbox code for Jedi Fallen Order Deluxe Edition, and it's a global code. Please, ladies and gentlemen, tell me if you grab the code. If not, I will drop it in a notepad and I'll get with Splint on the back end. We'll figure out another way to drop it, but please, or Splint, if you want to check the code afterwards, whatever you need to do, please let us know if you got that code. So at least we know that somebody did get it, and it doesn't get lost in the ether, because Splint doesn't have to spend that kind of money, man. And I greatly appreciate you doing that, bro.
Absolutely, 100%. And Omi Tony, I did see the mods for this game. Steel talked about it before this game launched, how crazy the mods were going to get. They are already lighting up a fire. I saw the Stan Lee one. Absolutely, bro. How do these modders, man? Like,
all they need is the
how
game.
Are these modders not devs, man? Because the work they do, that Stan Lee looked absolutely incredible. My God. And then I even saw the Uncle Ben gravestone mod. What the heck? I was laughing. Oh my God. I was dying.
Speaking of mods though, that's actually crazy. Let me see if I can wrap it down. We may not have a This Day in Gaming segment today. I do have to shut something. I do have to shut it down here next 10 minutes or so. But speaking of mods, I did want to bring up Nexus Mods did do something that was actually kind of noble, man. I thought it was kind of dope because there was some modders who went out and were removing the pride flags from Spider-Man, from the game, from off the murals, off the walls, and everything. I don't know what the hell is wrong with people, bro, to the point to where like you have to be so hateful that you wanna like put a mod out there to take out something in the game that doesn't take away from your experience. It's just, that's part of the dev's art. But either way, what Nexus Mods ended up doing is that they banned the guy's account. They pulled this mod down, banned his account, and said, hey, we believe in freedom of speech, all the great stuff and everything else. So it's just like, Nexus Mods is also kind of known for keeping the integrity of the game itself, right? For the most part. I know there's a lot of
Steel.
There's a lot of in between.
You and I are gonna differ, brother.
There's a lot of in between there. I like the fact that they took a stance on it. I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine. Again, I also believe that gaming as art should be treated as such. So if that was part of the original devs, what they wanted to create,
there should be no mods. Then it is what it is. Zero.
but it's mods is still different. Though,
nope,
man.
There should be no mods, brother. None.
Adding things to a game versus removing things from a game. It's like
you're removing Spider-Man and putting in Uncle Ben's gravestone. Bro,
still like I don't know.
No censorship. Nope. Either you censor everything or you don't censor anything. Nope. There is no. This is my line. This is my line. This is my own personal feelings. I'm not arguing with Steel here. He can have obviously his opinion. A lot of people do this. There's very few things that Steel and I differ on. I just have a very, very strong stance when it comes to any type of censorship whatsoever. If you can have sex naked mods in Skyrim, I'm sorry, you don't have the right to ban anything else. I'm that's just how I feel, and I don't care. I don't think that, again, but I'm old school. I don't think changing flags is hateful. Personal preference. People create mods to create personal preferences for their gaming experience. Gamers are allowed to do so. The modding community is gigantic. Games allow other people to change their art all the time in mods. You can't pick and choose what you think is okay. That's just me personally. Sorry, I have a real strong stance.
You don't need to apologize for that. I hate when people do that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. There's nothing to apologize about. I mean, I definitely agree. Yeah. I mean, Guardian Black agrees with too, man. I mean, it's definitely a choice. At the end of the day, it definitely is a choice. I definitely understand that perspective. For me, I just thought it was bold for Nexus to take a stance on it. So I do commend them for that. Overall, for the choice itself, I mean, like, I don't know. It's always going to be a open-ended conversation to have, and we can always talk about rights and wrongs and what's okay, what's not okay. I mean, we can say that Norman Reedus carrying around babies in tubes and carrying around the country, like that could be wrong in a certain amount of way. Like,
but that's what I'm saying, Steel. That's why you can't ever have censorship. Again, censorship to me is offline, man. Again, we run into this in this day and age, especially. Again, it's picking and choosing is the problem that I have. You're picking and choosing sides. You can't pick and choose sides. I mean, of course you can. Again, it's the company's right to do so. I'm not talking about legal or whatever else. I'm just saying I don't give them credit for virtual signaling on certain topics and not others. I just don't give you credit for that. Again, this is not me. And I think it is crazy that they would choose that of all things. Again, it wasn't like they were putting Nazi flags in there, Steel. They were putting the American flag in there. So again, I just, where are we at, brother? So that's just me. I think, again, if you're going to censor everything, then there's no mods whatsoever. If it's about the artist's original intent, as far as the devs go, then no mods should be allowed whatsoever, ever, period. Point blank. Just me.
And Fahim brought up, Fahim said it was like, but why charge the LGBT thing? Yeah, and I definitely can understand why you can look at both ends of it. I mean, to be completely honest, it's not something that I looked at and was like, oh yeah, let me put a whole lot of thought into it. It was just one of those things where I thought it was interesting because they took a stance, and you don't typically see that, especially these days, where it was just like, I mean, when I originally saw it, I didn't think it was that big of an issue. Because again, it's a mod, it's an option. You don't have to download it. You don't have to do it. So I definitely agree with those points. And again, I mean, it is kind of counterintuitive for me to be like, well, part of the vision and everything. Because mods are pretty much changing everything. Taking out the vision. It's just, I don't know, man. It's there's different perspectives to it for sure. Mm-hmm. And since it's not hurting anything, it's not doing anything. Even if they replaced it with swastikas or whatever, like at the end of the day, unless it was hurting somebody, by no means is it right. Like, but then again, it's like we also can't have a conversation about what's right or wrong. Because there are universal rights and wrongs, but then again, there's a lot of fine lines with a lot of that stuff. I can say that, hey, I think if you're a pedophile, you should get the chair. You should automatically be put to death. A lot of people are going to say, no, we don't agree with that, which they have. And I don't agree with that either. So it's like, you know what I mean? So I definitely, I think I'm gonna come, I think I could come around that. I could definitely come around on that. Again, actually putting some thought into it now. I do 100% agree where it's just like, yeah, if you're gonna have mods, then I mean, mods got to be across the board. Again, it's not something that's being forced. Nobody put a screen in front of you says, hey, download this shit or you're not going to be able to play it. So as far as that aspect goes, it is, I do think that it's kind of messed up to go ahead and ban his entire account for it. Maybe give him a warning. Maybe if there's something within I don't know how Nexus Mods has their policies or whatever set up. It could be something in the guidelines.
No. I mean, again, it's a private company still. Right. So again, at the end of the day,
that's their belief.
They can do it. Like I said, they can do what they want to do. I'm just saying they lose credibility in my mind. Right. They don't gain respect from me for doing that. They lose respect from me.
And I'm pretty sure Nexus Mods doesn't care about my respect or not or whatever. Because they have, and like you said, you can, I told you guys not that like a couple weeks ago, I can literally make every character naked in Final Fantasy VII.
Correct.
Remake. Every one of them.
Right.
Everyone.
And that's definitely not Square's vision.
No, that's not, and that's definitely not Square's vision. So, really, like, literally, like, put some actual thought into it and everything. Again, I just thought it was interesting because they took a stance, and them being a more private owned and everything, they're more than welcome to take that stance. And it wasn't something that I was expecting. And it's not like Nexus Mods is like, oh, they need to be credible. No, that's what they do. So they're giving you free content. They're allowing you to make an account and make the content and you to download the content and everything else. But I can agree. If you're gonna censor one thing, then you might as well censor everything. And there's not one thing is right or one thing is wrong. But if them as a private company, they feel like that's wrong, they also have the right to say, all right, well, that's wrong. And you can either respect it or not. And like Pong simply making the stance and and that's simply where we're separate at. It's like, I don't personally, it's whatever to me. And Pong was just like, you're just wrong. It's wrong. Which again, I can understand that. I mean, cause it is, that's fucked up. Why banning accounts? It's like falsely flagging somebody's account for cheating. It's like, really? You didn't even know
there's just a lot of that. Like I said, it's everywhere.
It's fine.
It's not the games industry. It's everywhere. It's society in general.
People picking, choosing.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate all of it.
I do agree. It should be kind of across the board. Although, again, that opens so many wormholes. It's because once you start talking one direction about certain things, then it leads into, okay, well, if that's the case, then what about A, B, and C then? And then it's just like, okay, well, how about D, E, and F? Okay, but how about 1, 2, and 3?
It's a slippery slope, and it never stops. And that's why I say you got to have it all open.
Right.
And you got, and again,
exactly.
you got to let everybody, again, it's an option. It's not downloadable. Somebody creates some crazy ass mod that everybody goes, that's fucked up. Nobody downloads it. Okay, well, nobody downloads it then, right? And he's off in oblivion. You got to have the open debate, though, and you got to have the open conversation.
See, and that's my thing.
You got to allow it, and you got to allow it.
See, and that's my thing, and it's part of the reason why I don't like talking about religion and stuff like that anymore. It's because I like having those conversations. I really don't mind them. I can have those conversations and not be so entrenched in my emotions about it that I get, well, I got to offend you now, or I got to make it personal now. No, it's like, okay, so you feel that way? Well, this is why I feel this way. Okay, well, can we come to a point where we can agree to disagree, or do we find points to where we can kind of bounce off of each other and actually have a conversation? Or is it dead in the water? And I think that's where a lot of people lose it, where it's like, hey, on channels like this, me and Paul can disagree, and I can also come to say like, well, damn, then I can see what you're saying. That is kind of wrong, because it's like, but in the eyes of them, if they felt it as a private company, if they felt like it was wrong, by your rights, you can do whatever you feel like is possible. Yep. I just thought it was interesting that they literally took a stance out of all the things that are going on. They took a stance on it. So I was just like, oh, wow, okay.
And no, Splin, I have not had an account personally banned whatsoever, ever. I have not had that because I don't take extreme positions.
Right. No.
I am a protector of freedom, and again that includes everybody, and everybody has. Again, I'm all about no censorship. I'm about actually just hashing it out and talking about it, but it's got to be available. You can't pick and choose sides. And so that's what I'm for. So that's why it's so strong in me. And that goes throughout life because I'm old school like that. So for me, it's just like, nah, I hate this shit. I hate all of it. And Omi Tony, I totally understand that side of things. And again, I understand companies nowadays have been forced to take positions. I want companies to go back to being completely neutral, never saying a word about any issues. I don't want companies talking to me, just like I don't want celebs trying to use their power to talk to me about things. I just don't care. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. And I think, especially when it comes to companies, I think companies need to go back to being completely 100% neutral, but they've been forced into this position because where we're at in society and because, whatever, the very loud cancel culture has caused an effect on them. And so they've been forced to take these positions now, which I just don't agree with. Whatever. So, but that's just me. But I totally understand. Again, if you're a private company, if you can make decisions. I just, like I said, for me, I just lose respect for you. That's all. So that's all.
And again, it comes down to like fairness and equality and everything. Right. And like those things are things that are being touched on that need to be adjusted and need to be fixed. And those conversations are different.
It's stuff Sean points out the other side. Like, so if somebody being offended offends me, does that rule out their offense? Correct. That's the circle jerk that we wind up to with these conversations at the end of the day. If you keep going around and around. So I'm offended that you're offended. So who's right?
Yeah, I don't
saying like it's stupid.
We're talking in circles at that point, and we're not moving anywhere. Split Difference says, I thought this was an Xbox podcast. No,
Split.
It's a non-console.
You guys can all blame Steel. Steel brought this one up.
Yeah, no, but I'm always going to bring stuff up like this because I feel like this is an important conversation to have because not a lot of people are. I thought it was interesting. I was ready to bring it up. Like, hey, let's have the conversation. But that's also because I can have conversation and not be emotionally charged by everything. Like I could just let's talk about it. What's up? I'm also known to be very stern about opinions. So it's like, okay, well, if I feel this way, you feel this way. Okay, let's have a conversation.
That's rare nowadays still, you know that.
And that's
open conversation has died,
and that's the point. And that's why I'll always want to have these kind of conversations because it is rare. I want to be able to show you that me and Pong can have differing opinions, or anybody can have Pong and anybody can have differing opinions, and we're going to maintain us no matter what.
Right.
That's part of it. I think that's another thing. I think that's part of the other piece of value that we add to the community that I know a lot of other people are willing to kind of sell their soul for. That is not necessarily one of them. But I think it was a beautiful conversation, man.
It was, sir.
With that though, with it being about 12:35, I got about 25 minutes before I got to skedaddle. I don't want to miss my appointment. So I think we'll wrap things up here. I will continue this day in gaming segment on our very next episode because I know that segment is extremely important to me. Again, we're looking at the history of gaming to kind of compare where we were to where we are now, especially with gaming needing to be treated as art. Is art and should be recognized as such. We definitely want to make sure that gets out there. But I guess Omni Tony says one more thing before I tell the people where they can find me at. Excuse me. Omni Tony says, new topic, Pong. Did you see Tim Daw's comments about what major Xbox investments might come after ABK? Getting me hype to get that deal over with and move on. I feel like we've talked about a lot about this.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to it. I was just typing. We've talked about this deal. Yeah, we have. And we know they're not done. They're not done. ABK is not going to be the end of it.
They did the ABK deal and said, what's next? So,
correct. So, and they even said it in their last investor call that they had plans that's going to continue.
Right.
So definitely not done whatsoever. So, again, to get into specifics, look, I think after ABK, they might be smaller for a while. I don't think that they're going to have anything big out the gates. I could be wrong. Who knows? A Japanese publisher could be next. But otherwise, I think all the small studio purchases that they've had on hold since this ABK deal came out of the blue, I think all those deals finally go through. So I think you could definitely see 3-4 smaller devs be announced as purchases after this is done for sure.
Yeah, no, 100% easily too. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I wrap this thing down, I do want to thank you all for joining us today on episode 69, one of my favorite numbers, in a beautiful episode of Living Splitscreen. Man, I feel like we had a lot of passionate conversations. Again, even for us to be about 40 minutes short than what we normally would be. Honestly, 30 minutes. We're not taking anything away from you guys. Other people say we do too much. I say we do just right, and our content is on point because, again, there's no better place to be than right here with Living Splitscreen on a Saturday morning. Telling you guys. Don't let nobody tell you different. And with that, you guys that show up on a week-to-week basis, whether it's on the audio side of things or whether it's live, I greatly appreciate that. It's always a beautiful thing to see. If you can, after the show, during the show, on the audio side, leave us a review, leave us some comments, let us know how we're doing. Let us know if the audio quality sounds completely trash. Let us know if the gameplay is ass and I don't need to be Spider-Man anymore. Just let me know what's going on. We can only improve based on what the community sees. Splendiferous says he feels like he's being robbed 40 minutes. And Splen, I think you need to talk to your other podcast and say that, hey, I've been robbed 2 hours of content. Living Splitscreen gives it to me. Where do you guys
look at what we've done, Seal? We set the expectations now. Even though I say 3+ hours, and I still stick to that. Now people are expecting 4, otherwise they're getting robbed. Split shout out to you, brother. I know man. Again, appreciate funny. All love, man. All love and respect. Man.
I know Split's being funny, but
yeah.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, again, you can find me Steel Rain I. Steel Rain I, the T is a 7. I just type it in Google. You'll find all my links, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, whatever it may be. You will find me. And I'm not Dr. Seuss, but that happened to rhyme, so deal with it. With that being said, hopefully we can get into a weekend of games. I feel like it's been a minute since I've been able to get some gaming in with my brother from another here, but so we'll see how that ends up.
Silent Cypher, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. He said he feels triggered about my stance on rebates, giving rebates back to the dealerships.
Oh God, that's so funny. But yeah, so hopefully we can get some gaming in this weekend. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Y'all stay safe. Pong, lead the people to victory. Let them know where they can find you. Another fantastic episodes, no matter what angle that we come from. The fact that we can come here on a week-to-week basis, not have much conversation, maybe some DMs here back and forth as things go crazy. I have a wreck, dealing with things at home, just trying to get to back to some normalcy. We still come here on a Saturday and just knock it out of the park, and I leave just as energized as ever before. And feel like I got an opportunity just to catch up a little bit. I know we always have more time to catch up in the back.
But that's what it's all about, brother. You and me. Chat, sitting down, catching up on all the topics of the week. And this week was big. Again, we didn't even get to everything here for sure. There was a lot going on. So, Grub at the beginning of the week, everybody forgot dropped news about Assassin's Creed, that we are going to be getting some information that we're going to get some information on the single player, but the Infinity, he says, is sounding very interesting and that they're eventually going to go to Japan, which we all have been asking for. And they're going to focus on the ninja side of thing versus the samurai side of thing, which has now been done a lot. So that's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, so was I. So it sounded like good things coming from Assassin's Creed. But anyways, just want to throw that in there real quick. Great conversation today, Steel. As always, brother. Again, I'm just glad you and the fam are okay after what happened this week. Steel disappeared out of my DMs for like 24 hours, and I was hitting him up like dude, you okay? What's going on, brother? Because that's not normal. So I'm just glad everything's okay, man. And obviously you gotta get things straight, but I'm just glad that you guys are healthy. That's all that really matters at the end when something like that happens. And that you could be here today and talk with me. So great show, chat. You are all amazing. Again, we love to get you involved. You guys are always coming in here every Saturday with great comments. Hope you feel the same way. We do what we can to get you guys, just getting new conversations started. So appreciate every single one of you. All love and respect to you as well. You know that we're nothing without you. But you can find me Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. You know the drill there. I just passed 3,000 people on Twitter. I'll probably be putting out a video tomorrow to say thank you to everybody, but thank you all for following me there. Just incredible. I never thought I'd see that number. Otherwise, tonight, be ready for the Shop Podcast. PTK, Blam, Fuzzy, and myself. We were supposed to have a guest. Guest had a last minute change, so we're not going to have a guest tonight. It's just going to be us three. So bring your questions, because PTK opens up the second half of the show to the chat, just like kind of what we do here, but he does it in a more structured form. So bring your questions, bring your comments. If you want us to talk about something tonight on the Shop, bring it over there, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time, PTK Blam's channel. Otherwise, Rick Payne. What's going on, brother? Great to see you, sir. Otherwise, you can find me some Tuesdays, not very often anymore, but Xbox Factor Podcast, Mr. Boomstick, Double Barrel Gaming, got to be there because he's got a full panel each and every week now. He's added people, so no matter which one of us isn't there, we're always covered. Every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time, Xbox Factor Podcast. And then Thursdays is PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM over on Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Be there. It's a lot like this show, just shorter. That's all it is. Mav and I cut ourselves, but we did go 3 hours this week, which was kind of crazy. And we didn't talk about everything either. So be there, PM in the PM every Thursday night. And then Friday nights, Xbox Ultimate, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. You know what it is there. We're going to have great conversations. We're going to have lots of laughs. Everybody who shows up has a good time there. So just join us there. And again, that's Fun Speculations channel, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Fridays. Otherwise, it is the golden age of gaming, people. Get out there, enjoy your weekend, play all this amazing content out there, or just pick one thing, whatever the case may be, or have 20 things like me. Just get out there. It's the best time ever to be a gamer. Play what you love what you play. We'll all talk to you real soon. Steel, get us out of here, brother, so you can get to your appointment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, y'all have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and join us next weekend for episode 70 of Living Splitscreen. Much love. Stay safe. Holla. Peace.